Hello everybody, good evening, welcome to the online property meet, the summer version of the online property meet. I'm Rob Norton. I have my lovely assistant, Ivona, and we have our background technician, who is Dan, in charge of operations, and we have our two lovely speakers, Claire Sheehan and Susannah Cole. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
I put myself on mute, which was unusual. Evening.
Well, it's nice for me to have got a word in, because they've been chatting away between themselves. So there we go. During the course of the event, we're going to have a networking room. We're aiming to do this between the speakers. But we'll put Claire first. We'll have a networking break, and then Susannah, if that's all right with you ladies. This is actually quite new to us, and we're looking just to help with the networking. I do realise that networking is an issue when you're online, or even online. Yes, so we've also got the networking page on the online property Pete. It's not Pete, it's me. Online property meet website, and we're waiting. And thank you very much for all the feedback. If anybody would like to get involved with any of that, please contact us at www.onlinepropertymeet.co.uk. So, I did have a little script that made up that I was going to just chat about if anybody is having a hard time at the moment. And I was just going to give a few tips, perhaps. So it's things that we could probably do today if we're having a hard time. And the first thing is to know your numbers. Your short-term plans you might have. How long could you survive with what you can do? Think about sources of funds. Whatever financial help may be available from the government. There may be loans, internet may help. Take advice through mortgage holidays, just generally dealing with debt. Communicate, don't buy, keep your head, don't bury your head, have a rainy day fund if possible. Sound a bit like Boris doing this, don't I? What you're spending, maybe go through your last 6 months bank statements, see what you can trim down on and streamline stuff. Shopping, be frugal if need be. Do homeworking, get the balance sorted out. Ideally, if you've got a place that you can go to work, do that as opposed to sitting on the kitchen table with everybody around. It does help. You could create a possible separate income stream if you can. Things that you know, if you know something, maybe do a bit of gardening or painting or whatever. Yeah. People are on Fiverr and sites like that, and they're doing all sorts. Maybe repurpose the business. An idea, pubs doing takeaways and stuff. That's an example. Above all, don't forget to be positive. We're all trying to be positive. Be the most positive person you know. The glass is always half full. In fact, there it is. Right. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Claire Sheehan. Good
Thank
evening,
you,
Claire.
Rob. Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right. And you're going to tell us about your PDA.
I am, yes. So I've got a few slides which I thought I would share, and then I'll talk through with everyone now. So if I just share my screen, bear with me for a second. Okay.
There she
Can
is.
you see my screen okay?
I can.
Fantastic. I'm hoping everyone else can, because I can't see anything else apart from my screen.
Perhaps
Yep,
somebody...
see your screen fine, no problem.
Fantastic, thank you. So yes, so thank you for inviting me along, Rob. So I'm Claire Sheehan. For those that don't know me, I'm the founder of My PDA, which is the Property Developers Assistant. You may have heard of us, you may not. We're fairly new on the market, and I'm going to talk to you about My PDA today. But what I'd also like to do is just talk you through a little bit about us and my story, and really why I came up with it in the first place, why I decided to build something to help property developers. So My PDA is a new prop tech revolution, and I'm going to give you a bit of a demo at the end of this presentation, and then we can go into any Q&A that you might have. So a little bit about us. So myself and my husband, we are both finance professionals. So Alistair's still in the day job, and he's a finance director. My background is credit risk management, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But for the last 15 or so years, probably a lot longer now, we've been developing properties, but on a one-to-one basis, really. So buying something, doing it up, selling it, or living in it, and so on. And our focus primarily has been on buy-to-lets, like many people, on a single buy-to-lets. And we've been very fortunate, and we've managed to build up our property portfolio, which is now worth multiple millions, which is great, and it gives us some sort of income. And we did all of this leveraging from our own financial experience. Again, me on credit risk, Alistair, who's an accountant. We're both very passionate about things like property. I'm particularly passionate about automated solutions, which is where My PDA came from. And you'll hear a little bit about my story and why living life to the full is so important to me, and I'm sure it is to many of you. So starting with my corporate life, as I said, I'm a qualified credit manager, qualified with the Chartered Institute of Credit Management back in 2003, but I've been involved in credit management since I can remember. It's really where my career started. So I've been involved in lots of different projects, and then in 2009 I decided to do a qualification with it, and that was Prince 2, which is an accredited association. So Prince 2 is all about how to set the process for project management and go through the right things at the right time, and this all lent itself into me becoming away from employment, I guess, into consultancy. So I became a consultant, an independent consultant. I wasn't affiliated with any agency, and I specialized in order to cash function. So right from the customer creating an account and asking for credit, placing the order, then getting delivered the goods through order fulfillment, invoicing, customer payments, etc., and then going through to the cash allocation. And you'll notice that, you know, I started with the credit application, and we end with the cash coming in the door. And that's why that's part of the order to cash cycle, which is all involved in credit management for those that are not familiar with it. So I've been operational for many, many years, and I've led teams, and I've been part of teams as well. And again, you know, I'm credit and collections, and business to business is my sweet spot. Now, what's been very interesting since the lockdown is, or, you know, the COVID pandemic, is I've heard so many times from many people on different online events and just in general, particularly in the property market, a lot of people talking about cash and cash is king, you know, releasing your assets so that you can survive through this period. Now, for me, that has been my bread and butter from so long. You know, in my working life, cash is king is the you know, is the mantle of what we say. So to hear now over the last few months that being said more and more just goes to show that, you know, we all need to be thinking about our own assets and protecting ourselves. So some of the project management that I've been involved with is all about projects that deliver cash improvements. And that could be through improving the costs or reducing the costs, including headcount. So getting efficiencies from setting up shared services that might be offshore, process re-engineering, putting in big ERP systems or bespoke automated software, centralizing teams, and again, you know, shared services. So that whole package is what I've been focusing on over many years. Now, that has all been underpinned by software as a solution. Some of you might have heard the term a SaaS. So not SaaS as in the pensions, but a SaaS in terms of software. And it's all about working smarter. So finding solutions to use technology that help us to use things like automated intelligence, for example, artificial intelligence, and so on. And I have literally saved companies millions and millions of pounds in cash through these projects. Now, a little bit about my life, property and money. So throughout the 90s and the noughties, you know, I was buying and renovating properties, and I did become an accidental landlord, as many people do. But, you know, like most of us, we go through this cycle then. So we work, we save the money, and perhaps we have party a little bit, and then we do it all again. And that, you know, I was doing that for many years, and I was very happy, you know, consulting. And throughout my job, I've loved what I've done in credit risk management for many, many years. And I enjoy life to the full. But things can change, and they can change quickly. And that's no exception for me. So in 2012, I had a major change, which really drove the way that I am now and what I look for in the future. So in January 2012, I was just about to buy this beauty of a horse. This is me giving it a test drive. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And I've always wanted to have a horse. And so this was a massive dream of mine. But I experienced some pain and an itch. And it was on my breast. And on the 27th of January, after some tests, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I had a 5 centimetre, very aggressive tumour that was growing. And I needed to have lots of different surgeries to sort it out. As you can imagine, when you go through something like this, the first thing you think of is, I'm going to die. And, you know, a little bit like the life going flashing before you when some emergency happens. It wasn't really flashing before me, but, you know, it happened over months where I seriously thought that this was going to be it for me. But so that was in 2012, and I basically spent 2012 going through lots of treatment. So I had lots and lots of surgery, which included things like a lumpectomy. I had the cancer in my lymph nodes as well, so they had to remove those. I had a mastectomy, reconstruction. Through all the treatment, I then couldn't move my shoulder, which I needed to for radiotherapy, so I had to have a frozen shoulder surgery, which basically they put me out and broke my arm to move it. It's weird. And, you know, big thing for a woman in particular, I lost my hair. So I spent months of having intensive chemotherapy because it was quite an aggressive cancer. They needed to deal with it quickly. So I had chemotherapy every 2 weeks. And that was pretty tough. Now, I did get a tattoo out of this, and I always swore I was never going to have one, but I had to have a tattoo, or 2 actually, little dots for my radiotherapy. And I'm never having another tattoo. That was enough for me, these 2 little dots. But throughout that whole period of 2012 and going for these tests and having these things done, you know, that waiting for the results was just unbelievably slow and frustrating and worrying. So it was a massive waiting game throughout that whole time. And I did get more results back, particularly after my mastectomy. And I was very surprised to hear that they actually found more tumours than they could detect using all the scans and the other biopsies that I had. And that was pretty scary. So I was pretty pleased that they got rid of it. But throughout that whole period, I would say I'm a positive person. And, you know, I just had to get on with it. So I just got on with it. And I was fairly happy when I wasn't too ill. And if I'm honest, my husband probably suffered more than I did mentally, because he wanted to help but didn't know what to do. And I was just fighting it in my own way. So, you know, it was a pretty tough time. This is the two of us. He's already got a bald head, but this is the two of us with two baldies on a beach in Brighton, which was quite amusing. But it gave me a lot of personal growth that year. It made me sit back, think about things, and also it changed me. But one of the things that I strive for, and this all will come into play later when we talk more about my PDA, is that whole work-life balance. So I was very fortunate after my year of treatment, unfortunate in a way because Alistair was made redundant, but we spent 3 months traveling. So we went to Australia and New Zealand because that was pretty much the safest place I could go without getting lots of insect bites, and as long as I stayed away from snakes anyway. So we went traveling, which was an amazing experience, and it helped me to recover. So went to New Zealand and went camping. You know, we climbed up Tongariro volcano, went to Hobbiton for those that like Lord of the Rings. That is me. I am that small. I even got my day skipper on the Whitsundays. And this was me when my hair was growing back. I've only just started to show this to people. It was a little bit embarrassing at the time. So those 3 months away were brilliant because my hair was growing and it was a bit of a mess, as you can see. But then at the end of that, you know, the full recovery, excuse me, it was in the Cook Islands and, you know, getting back to health, which was really, you know, great for me. I've got a message saying my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully you can all hear me still and see my screen.
I can.
All right, brilliant. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, all good here.
Thank you. So lifestyle for me. So in 2013, you can imagine it changed. So we came back from traveling and I had to have some more surgery, some preventative surgery, because my cancer was estrogen led, very high doses. Then I just had to have things like my ovaries removed and all sorts of things. But then it got back to the grind. So I'm back now to work, to saving, and then the merry-go-round. You'll see that the picture of the partying is not there. So I definitely calmed down on that side. And in 2013, I was probably the slimmest I've ever been, and the fittest, but I'd lost loads of muscle mass. But over time, you know, it's great that your mind, your body forgets about cancer, for example. But over time, I then started to get back into some of the bad eating and drinking habits. You know, don't get me wrong, I still like to have a drink and I still like to eat rubbish sometimes, but I try not to. But over the time, it gradually builds back up. So a couple of years ago, Alistair and I, we joined a gym. So we're like gym fanatics, are now up at 6:30 in the morning to go to these classes. But in the COVID, the last few months, like many people, I did eat a lot. And I was already working from home. So seriously, I had no excuse. But I ate more, I drank more, and I did start to pile on the pounds, and I wasn't going to the gym. So I started running and I started on some new diet program. So, you know, I'm getting back to where I was. But the extra thing now is I'm building some muscle, which is great. But all of the time, so, you know, ever since the cancer treatment, I've always been dreaming that, you know, there's something else, that work-life balance. What can I do that's different? Because I want the choice. I want to be able to work when I want to work or not work and just have fun when I want to. So how am I going to get that? So in 2015, and bear in mind, you know, this is 2 years since we went traveling, and every single day when we were traveling, it's like, right, what can we do different? What can we do different? And we just couldn't come up with anything. But in 2015, we read, like many people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that sort of changed our outlook. So what we then started to do was buy lots of buy-to-lets properties. And this is like before the stamp duty changes all came in. So, you know, I was a consultant, so I had some money building up, and I wasn't utilising, not doing anything with it, didn't want to deduct it, so I had to pay tax. So it was just sat there doing nothing. So we went on this mission and bought loads of buy-to-lets, like single buy-to-lets that we were building. And it did start to give us some choice in terms of passive income and what that was going to help us with. But quite frankly, you know, the buying of a single buy-to-lets, it just wasn't happening fast enough for us. We wanted that choice for us both, for my husband and I, to be able to stop working if we chose to. And we weren't there yet. So what could we do to accelerate it? And this is really where our property journey started in earnest. So, so we wanted to be inspired. So in 2017, this is when our second chapter really started in terms of property. And we went to the Property Investor Show in the Excel in London. And Alistair and I decided to go to different seminars to try and be inspired by different people, and just think about what can we do, because we knew property was a great place to build our assets, build our income, but you know, how could we make that higher and better? To be honest, I wasn't particularly inspired by most of the seminars that I'd been to. Nothing was really grabbing me, and I'm quite a skeptical person anyway. I think it's probably the credit risk side of me, and Alistair's an accountant, so fairly similar. But he met Lloyd Gerardi at the end of the day, and I hadn't met him. And he told me about him, who's the one of the founders of White Box Property Solutions. And he talked to Alistair about a one-day course that they do. And I was like, well, okay, well, you go to that one-day course. I will go to my consultancy job and go and have a look. And that was really going to tell us whether a property developer or development was going to be for us or not. So he came back raving about it, which is quite unusual, trust me. And he said, right, we need to go on this weekend course, like 3 days. 3 days of talking about property development. And seriously, 3 years ago, this is how naive I was. I said to Alistair, well, what are they going to talk about for 3 days? I just didn't get it. I absolutely didn't get it. I was green. So I thought, okay, well, we'll go for it. And it was one of the best decisions that we'd made, because it then inspired us. And we saw that, you know, let's stop doing the single buy-to-let and purchase in that way. And let's change our strategy and do build to rent. And that was going to be our new strategy. But of course I needed help, you know, mentoring or having mentors and somebody that you can lean on that have been there and done it is so important for all of us on this journey, particularly, you know, in property. So I joined the White Box Mastermind program. I still had the 9 till 5 job, and I was finding loads and loads of sites, like hundreds of sites, and I was analysing hundreds. And it all took time, you know, and this was outside of the 9 till 5, which wasn't really 9 till 5 like many of us. It's probably 7 till 10 in a lot of cases. So I was doing a lot of that, and then monitoring using spreadsheets. And I consider myself fairly proficient with things like spreadsheets and calculations and stuff, but it still took a lot of time. So I'm running around doing everything. I came across many challenges in you know, trying to change the strategy and do something different in property development. And I think in the beginning, we all think, oh, it's going to be easy. Sure, you know, how can it be that hard? But it is hard work. No matter what anyone says, it's hard and it's not easy. And there's a lot of peaks and troughs, and you just like ride it out and you'll get there. Because, you know, it's obviously rewarding. But I face so many challenges that we all do about the fear of getting my numbers wrong. And particularly as I'm credit risk, I was, you know, risk managing all of the time. But that made me slow, and it made me miss out on opportunities. So I might see an opportunity while I'm out driving, and I think, oh, okay, well, I'll do something on that later. And I might either forget or I procrastinate so much about it. It was frustrating. But you know what it's like when you're the one that's doing the property development, it's everything. You have to do everything. So the to-do list was like massive. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but often I liked the site so much, I was desperate for it to work. So I would just try and massage the numbers to make it work, to make it stack. But if it doesn't stack, it doesn't stack, right? And I had lots of fear and the unknowns of, okay, well, what is the build cost? How do I work out the cost? Who do I go to? And then we've all got the challenge of unrealistic vendors. Oh, I've got a bit of land. Oh, they can pay me a fortune for that. They forget that we need to make a profit to make it worthwhile. And again, complex spreadsheets and financials. I had lots of different things from different people and different companies. And I either had too few tools, or, you know, nothing, or too many. And I think Susannah, we talked earlier about, you know, there are lots of CRMs, for example. It's like, okay, well, which one do you go with? And, you know, throughout all of this, procrastination. But with perseverance, you know, I did get an offer accepted. We had a couple of offers accepted, which is great, but it took a long time. So that's what I'm saying about it's not easy and it is hard work. And you just have to be very tenacious and just keep going, and it will happen, and just have faith. But yeah, I guess it's finding some of the tools to help you to do that. But then in 2019, I had a slight change in direction. So some of you may know Jonathan McDermott. He is the principal town planner and CEO of Town Planning Expert. And he is a genius, and I've known him through the White Box guys for quite a long time now. And John had seen the level of detail I've gone into in my analysis and how quickly I was churning through sites and going through everything. And last year he had a boot camp out in Malta, and he took, I think there are 11 businesses with him. And he asked me to go along to help everybody with the finances. Now, don't get me wrong, lots of people very financially astute, and they don't need any help because they've got their own systems, you know, and that's great. But there are some people that were quite grateful, maybe just for a second opinion, or, you know, doing things on the back of a fag packet, and they wanted to do something different. So I went along and I helped them with the numbers. And that was an experience, because I realized that, you know, the challenges that I was facing, actually everyone's facing, because you sometimes feel like you're alone with this. And also lots of people are afraid of spreadsheets and of finances. Now, although I was procrastinating, I wouldn't say I'm afraid of them, but I just want to make sure I get it right. So I came away from that boot camp thinking there's got to be a better way. And that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. So I came away, thought, right, I'm going to create an online calculator so that developers can go and plug some numbers in really quickly and come up with a result, and they don't have to spend time doing it, and they don't have to worry about the numbers being wrong, because, you know, we'll do it all for them. I thought, great, right, that's what I'm going to start to do. Now, I was still in my consultancy job at the time. So I think the week after, I flew to India. And I was working European hours, so I was around this very pool in the morning, and so I had time to just think. I was like reading lots of mindset books, and it just gave me some downtime and to think. And oh my God, it suddenly dawned on me that I've had something under my nose for so long. So all of my corporate background has been, as I mentioned before, has been underpinned by software as a solution. So technology that I've created with other suppliers and I've implemented to help corporations, to teams, to manage their workload a lot more efficiently, cut out all the waste in terms of processes, and, you know, not only get the cost savings, but to automate things so that we get the cash in quicker, for example. And I just thought, well, why can't property developers benefit from that same type of automation? There isn't anything else out there. So then that was my light bulb moment. And that's when it changed for me. And then we created my PDA. So that was back in February 2019. I came up with that whole idea. So then I got busy, you know, thinking about, okay, well, what's it going to do? And like really excited about how that's going to help property developers. So my PDA is because it's the property developer's assistant. So it does multiple things. And I'll show you a little bit of a demo in that in a second. So it really is an anywhere, anytime, any device. So you can get it on the mobile. So you can download the app. I'm just going to play this video for you.
How many hours and days are you spending working through complex spreadsheets to create profitable property deals? How would you like to work out the profit on any deal in less than 15 seconds? MyPDA offers a new, easier way to make your property development dreams a reality. Use it to simplify site finding, complex calculations, and quickly weigh up the profitability on any deal. Create compelling propositions with real confidence in the numbers your investors can really trust. MyPDA will automatically help to keep you and your team accountable by tracking progress along the way to achieving your profit goals. Make your property development appraisal simple and take away the stress of property deal creation with MyPDA. With MyPDA, you really can combine work-life balance with running a successful property development business. Create your free account today.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to show you that was just to give you a bit of a flavour about MyPDA, but also our core values. And I've talked about this a lot, about that work-life balance. And it's the same principle. You know, I wanted that, so why not create something that helps other people? And it's all about, you know, we achieve it by saving you time. So MyPDA is a massive time saver because, you know, it takes away some of the admin things that you would normally need to do, so that you can be picking up the phone and making those important conversations or having the important conversations. Let the system remind you when you need to do something, for example. And, you know, and family and spending time with your friends and family is really important. And, you know, that's very true to me as well. And as I explained in the earlier slides about, you know, my history with the cancer, you know, that's very important to me, and I'm sure it is to many people. And throughout all of this, you know, our customers are at the heart. So we're trying to provide something that's very simple and user-friendly, that adds value to property developers. So what I'm going to do is, actually I'll talk through this slide first. So I mentioned before about White Box. So Lloyd and Andy were part of our journey in the very beginning. Now, again, you know, I came up with this idea in February 2019, and I was talking to them back in August, September time last year, and we decided to join forces with them because they had the same vision and they could see that this is really going to help property developers. So, you know, we wanted to leverage from their expert experience, know-how, and really help developers as much as we possibly can. So one thing that I do, somebody asked me earlier on a separate note if tonight I'm going to be covering the full demo. There's no time to cover the full demo. I'm just going to give you a bit of a snippet this evening. But if you'd like to join me, once a month I'm doing a MyPDA Clinic where I take you through the end-to-end of how the tool works and how it can help you. This month it's on Thursday the 20th at 8 p.m. I'll put the link in the chat a little bit later. But if you want to join, don't forget MyPDA is free at the moment. In fact, what you'll see is going to stay free. Feel free to create your account. So what I'm going to do now is I will log on to MyPDA and just give you a quick demo, and then we'll do some Q&A. How much time have I got, Rob? Am I doing all right?
You've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Give me a 5-minute warning if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to log into MyPDA. So we've tried to make the whole user interface as simple as possible. So just a few clicks on what to do and how to do it. So when you log in, you can look at our website and find out more information. Now this is a test site, so there's not actually that much in here right now. So I'm going to go through a couple of things. So when you first log in, you might be thinking, well, how's it going to help me? So primarily we're talking about helping you with site sourcing, so new opportunities. And then how do I use MyPDA to manage those opportunities and my pipeline? And then how do I use the dashboard to keep myself accountable and track my progress? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up some alerts. So if I go to the site sourcing, there isn't anything here right now, but what we do, so there are a couple of ways of creating a project. One is we can create an alert, just the same as you would on Zoopla or Rightmove. you go and create your criteria, and then it returns information to you on a daily basis. But we're making it nice and visual and just one place to go to for everything. So if I just show you how that would work. So we create a new alert. At the moment, we offer Zoopla. We are working with other data providers to increase the data sources there. But let's assume that, I guess with all of the new planning rules, if I think about one of the planning rules about if you've got a terrace or a semi-detached or a detached house, you can go up to 2 stories. I think, yeah, it's amazing. And you can do that with prior approval. So, you know, if I was looking for a house, then I might leave it as residential, and maybe I'm going to look in RG27 area, and I'll do a 20-mile radius. And what this does, I've just created that search, and what my PDA will go and do is, in fact, it's going slow because my husband is watching a film, so I'm going to tell him to come off that. But what my PDA does, it goes to fetch, based on your criteria, all of the properties that have been listed based on that criteria in the last 30 days. So if I look here, you can see that it's returned 3,605 records. So we already had that information, and we've just returned that for you. Now, that's probably too many to go through, and we don't want you to be swamped. So you can easily just delete it. What I am going to do now is just go and create a commercial alert, and then we'll work through it. So commercials for sale. Maybe again, I'll use the same postcode, and I want to do 20-mile radius. Hopefully there won't be 3,000 properties for us to work through, or if there were, then that would be fantastic as well. Okay, so we can see we've returned 20. So on every page you see 8 tiles. So and each tile has a picture, and this, what we've done, we've pulled the data from Zoopla in this scenario, and it gives you the summary of what it is you're looking at. Now, for many property developers, when you're experienced, you know what to look for. So I can easily, and I'm sure you can, just look at these pictures and know whether it's something that I'm interested in or not. So I'm just going to scroll through, and am I interested in any of these? This one, yes, I would be. So there are a number of ways of playing around with my PDA to make projects, delete projects, and so on. So I'm just going to click a couple that I like, and I'm going to create a project. So I quite like these two. It could be okay. And up here, create project for the selected ones. Okay, so I've created them, and I'm going to show you where they go in a second. But for the other ones, I might just want to delete them. So they are nice and simple. So just ask him to cut off his film. Okay, we'll keep scrolling down. Again, you can look through. Is there anything else that you're interested in? A couple of pages here. And we got here another one that could be interesting, a good one for going up into that airspace and so on. So I'm just creating those projects, and now what I'm going to do is just delete some. Okay, so if I select them all, it just selects everything only on that page, and then you can just delete them. And it's as simple as that. Now, if I go back to my dashboard, which I haven't showed you yet, it will start counting what we're doing. So they've all gone now because I've deleted them all. So if I go to my dashboard, what you can see here, I actually already had 2 projects that I'd previously created and since deleted. But there's 4 which I just created from that property alert, and they're new. If I scroll down to the bottom of this dashboard, I've deleted 8 property alerts. So it keeps track of what you've done so that you don't have to. So at the end of the month or the end of the day or the week, you can go and see what progress you've achieved. But what we're going to do now is go to manage projects. And the 4 properties that we just clicked on and created a project, they are automatically now sat in your new project listings. So under new. Now, if you're using Nimbus, for example, and you find an off-market opportunity, and you want to progress and create a project and do the analysis, which we're going to do in a second, you just create a new project, and you do that by clicking the plus button. Now you can click this and say create it straight from my location, which is brilliant when you're on the app, because you might be out and about and you just press it, it creates it for you, come back to it, never miss that opportunity again. But if you wanted to just create something manually really quickly, you can just proceed and then fill in the details. It's super, super easy. You just need to fill in the information. And what you can do also is, if I just click on one of the properties that we've just created, and it shows you the summary. Now, I haven't had to put anything in, the system's done it for me. So it's brought across the description. Yes, I can amend that if I want to. I've got the URL link. I know where it is in terms of the address, who the agent is, and what my next step is. So it's telling me there is missing data. Now that's because we can't bring everything in from Zoopla. We need to know what you want to do with it. So let's assume that you've checked the site out, and then you go to edit or view your details, and just the edit page, and you just might want to call it Claire's house, for example. And you can change the description, whatever it is that you want to do. 5 minutes, okay, cool. I will speed up. And then you go to what you're going to do with it. So I'm going to say this is a new build, and let's assume I've looked into it and it's 4,000 square foot. If I want to work in square meters, I can. I can choose a file to upload. I can put some notes, and then it updates the project summary for me. And you can see, we've got the notes here and so on. And the workflow has changed. It says now pending a QDA. So we're going to go and do one really quickly. So you'll notice here we've got some padlocks. This is some new releases that is coming very, very soon. So I'm going to show you the quick deal analysis, which is a very quick qualifier. Does it work? Doesn't it? What sort of profit can I make? In the detailed financial appraisal, it's going to give you so much more information and be really comprehensive. But a quick deal analysis, you click the QDA. This information is pre-populated in your user settings. You can go and change it though if you choose to. So I know this is commercial, let's say 700,000, I'm just guessing here. Total area 4,000 square foot, £150 a square foot. If I was to say it was conversion based on my user settings, then that would change, but I'll leave it as new build. Let's say I'm going to do 4 properties at 1,000 square foot each, 12 months to build it, 6 months to sell, interest rate, maybe I can get it for 10%, and bill contingency, I'll leave it at 10. And there might be maybe 75,000 extra costs. 1,000 square foot, maybe 600,000 each. So 2.4 million. So it just says, what's your GDV? So it's asked me for very few questions here. Calculate the deal. And it tells me that based on that scenario, I'd only make 21%, 0.21% profit. So it makes me think, what have I done wrong here? So if I go back down, it's because the other costs in the summary is 750. If I go back to edit, I should have put 75,000 and say update the deal now. Let's see what it comes up with. There you go, 28%. So I know then maybe I could offer them 850. And what would that be? 20%. And that's my sweet spot. I will always want to get 20% profit. And then you can scroll down, see that information. If I close that down, it saves all of this information for you. So in that project, it's now moved to active. If I want to go and look at it, I'm almost finished, Rob, then I can just go to view my history. I can always go back and look at the previous QDA that I've done, QDA being the quick deal analysis. And you can see the information here. There is much more to it, which is why I'm going to put the link in if you would like to join me to see and hear lots more about my PDA and what's coming up and how detailed that financial analysis is, and how we're going to link into different service providers and people like brokers and lenders. They're going to love you because you're going to give them the right information right first time. Okay, so I'm logging out of there and I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm pretty sure I'm almost out of time. In case anyone has any Q&A. So that was a really quick demo. I hope it wasn't too quick and you were able to follow what I was doing.
Brilliant there. Ivona, do we have any questions? Hello? Ivona.
There's one from Andy.
Hi Claire, what size of company do you feel my PDA suits best? This is from Andy Arthur.
So, you know, it can be from a one-man band or somebody that has a team. Because what you can do, at the moment, you can have access with that same account. Everybody can access it and you could monitor. If you've got a VAs, for example, you might have a couple of VAs. Then in your project name, you can have a workaround where you just say the person's name at the beginning and you can track who's doing what. So, so anybody can use it. So you can scale up if you've got quite a big business and you're already an experienced property developer. You can use this tool, and it's something to rely on. And particularly for those that are more advanced in their property journey in terms of development, when we go into the detailed financial appraisal, when that's there for you, yeah, seriously, you're going to love that because it will just make it so easy. You saw how quick it was to do the high level. This is going to make it super easy for you to do the detail, and then you'll press a button and it will create an offer pack for you. It will create off-market letters, all sorts of things. And again, you might remember I said about it saves time, and this is why it's saving time, because it's pre-populated with data, takes away some of that unknown in terms of the numbers, because we're giving you recommendations based on users or the industry standards. Hopefully that's answered the question.
Okay, thank you. There's another question from Penny Simmons. Is the app available on Microsoft?
Penny, I'm not sure what you mean by is it available on Microsoft. Do you mean is it like a Microsoft Office package? If you do, it's completely independent. You can use my PDA on any device though. So if you've got a Microsoft computer, then of course you can use it on that. But I'm not sure exactly what the question.
Yeah, we don't have any more questions, and hopefully Penny can come back and clarify what she means.
Sure. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful to everybody to understand a little bit more about my PDA. You know, it's free, you can use it. You know, we'd just love to get some feedback.
Where have you seen people benefit from it most? So somebody goes from not using it to using it. Where's the point where you think actually that's the sweet spot for them?
It depends on the circumstances. So, you know, many people are using it for the site sourcing, and then they find out that it does the quick deal analysis, and then they're able to churn through loads and loads of sites. So, you know, property development is a numbers game. So numbers in terms of the number of sites that you can find. And then you just need to do the analysis really quickly, because as I was saying before, we try and massage it sometimes to make it work for us. But this is so quick, you can just go, right, yeah, that works, brilliant. I can now do the detail, or no, it doesn't. I'm not going to waste my time.
Okay, Penny has come back to us and she has clarified to say that just of the Microsoft Marketplace online, I think she probably means. The Microsoft Marketplace. Is it available on the Microsoft Marketplace?
I will need to double check that and I can come back to you, Penny.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
First of all, great talk, Claire, and I'm really glad that you're now recovered from breast cancer.
Thank you.
You mentioned that what we saw on the screen is free, but I'm guessing that the detailed analysis won't be free, and I'm just wondering how much that will ultimately cost.
Yeah. So there's more to our second release than just the detailed financial appraisal. So we're giving information or the ability to automatically create things like offer packs and off-market letters, and it goes into a lot more detail. And currently we're looking at around £99 a month, and it's a monthly subscription. So that's the current thinking. But yeah, what you see now is free, and it's going to stay that way.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. That's everything I take here, Bona.
Thank you.
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear someone.
Yeah, I was talking. Can anybody hear me, Rob?
Yeah, hi Ali, go
Ali.
ahead.
Hi, so I just wanted to say to Claire, first of all, what an inspiring story to come back from obviously from battle with cancer, and then be able to set up a business. I think is a great tribute to get through across that mindset. By the way, so I'm really impressed, and I do apologize because I was meant to come to your last event you had, but with my work I got caught up. But I'm definitely going to sign up for the next one. But I thought I'd put it out there for you that I think it's amazing that you obviously still have the energy to still go and still look forward for the best things in life. So I just wanted to give it a kind of like a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to you joining me. I'll be watching out for you.
Yes.
I'll put the link in the chat so everyone's got the link. If you want to join, it's a free webinar. So yeah, feel free.
Yeah.
There is a further question from Penny. Claire, does it link into Land Insight?
So we currently don't link into other applications, but we are working on collaborating with different providers. So for example, we're currently talking to Nimbus about having some streamlining of what they do and then getting the projects directly into my PDA, so that it makes it super easy for you. But we are we're very open to working with many people. We're not trying to be a Land Insight, and we're not trying to be a Nimbus. We're trying to be a complementary tool that helps everybody do different things. And we'll be working with lots of different service providers and giving you quick links so that you can go to those other applications.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
More,
great.
no more questions.
No more questions?
Yes, Davina McCall, yeah.
Oh yeah, I have seen.
Yeah.
I think
And
take that.
I'm in many of my friends' phone as Davina.
Excellent. Did I say one more question pop up then?
I think that was the comment about Davina McCall.
As long as she's got Davina's abs, she's fine.
Okay.
No, I wish. I'm working on it.
I just one last time. Sorry, Claire. With the did you have any access only to Zoopla, not Rightmove yet? Is that the case?
At the moment, it's Zoopla, and we are trying to work on other data sources so that we can bring in things like Rightmove. It's not that easy, unfortunately, but we are working on trying to improve those data sources.
All right, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, good for you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Claire. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Very interesting as usual. Move straight on to Susannah, maybe, if that's okay with you, Susannah.
Tech 101, turn the sound on. That would help, wouldn't it? Hi, everybody. And let's see, because I haven't seen them. And Hannah, I know you were on my webinar earlier, so it'd be lovely to see what you look like. Because sometimes you chat to people for a while, but you don't actually know what they look like, which is very nice. I'm going to talk to you guys about deal packaging today, so sourcing and packaging. Now, I do have a presentation ready and I'm happy to whiz through that, but the best is questions, really. So if I try and whiz through that presentation as fast as a speeding horse, and then we can do a good old Q&A session, we can talk about your strategies, what you guys want to achieve, that kind of thing. Because that's going to be much more useful, I think, particularly because we've got a nice number of people on the group. It can be quite personal. So let me whiz through, and if I zip through some things, please don't feel affronted. It's because I would rather do a much deeper Q&A and talk about what you're looking to achieve. And it's like picking up the rock. Underneath, there's a heck of a lot more of interest than a presentation that's there to give you an overview. Is that good with you guys? And I'm in complete quarantine. I'm supposed to be in complete quarantine because I came back from Spain on Sunday, so I can't see anybody for 2 weeks, so it's very nice to see you guys. That's because I'm buying a place out there, so which is quite good fun. Right, let me share my screen and I will whiz through, but don't feel I'm trying to whiz through. I just want to get to a more personal approach afterwards, because I think it's important that you get a structure of deal sourcing and how you can make money, but then let's talk about what it is you want to achieve, because I've got quite a lot of experience, and so it'd be nice for you to go, right, Suze, give me some of that. Let's have some good information for you. Right, here we go. Oh, Rob, instead of having everybody in the grid, I've just got you and your fabulous shirt. That's pretty good, isn't it? And has everybody, now I've got people on the grid, have all of you, I mean, many of you will be so used to Zoom now, but maybe some of you aren't so much. It's so much more fun for you if you put everybody in a grid. So you don't need to see much of my presentation. You can just watch everybody's reactions. And this is a gin and tonic. Woohoo! You don't get that at a normal property event, do you? So pop everyone in grids because it's good fun, and then have a good old chat as well. So
yes, you can record it.
Yes.
Somebody's asking.
Yeah. I've always really enjoyed coming to Rob's Meets because I found that you tend to attract quite decent people who know that they're going to have to work and know that they're going to need to get some knowledge. Just I think because you run an independent, Rob, and you're quite sensible about it. So it's quite good fun to come and enjoy myself with one of your meetings. But really what you guys are looking for, isn't it? Knowledge, accountability, and like-minded people, because all your friends, all your normal friends are going to think you're crazy, as my normal friends did in the early days, you know, and they're proud of me now because they saw the struggle. But you know, you don't always want to get, like my mum used to drive down from Glasgow when she was still working as a teacher and put her marigolds on because she was trying to save me £10 an hour and be my cleaner because she was so worried about me, which is gorgeous of her. But I don't want my mum in her 60s doing that. And now these days I just take her on a tour and I'm like, I've got that one, I've got this one. She's like the queen, hello house, you know. So you need a group of mad property entrepreneurs, and you've got a good one here with Rob, so keep up with everybody, and I definitely would suggest swap phone numbers with everybody. So let's talk briefly about deal packaging, but then we want to get on to just general property, general questions. Basically, it's a good way to get into property with no mortgages, loans or debts, isn't it? And the stuff that I'd really like to run through relatively fast, and please ask loads of questions, just dump your questions in the Q&A, is you can earn cash, let's talk about compliance, let's talk about releasing the deal and getting paid, a little bit on deal analysis, but more than anything, I want you to look at creating reports, how you set your company up, what kind of team you're going to need, and marketing your business. This was my original TGPCs. I've had 2 stages to my business, my originals. So Ash on the right hand side, if you can see my cursor, he's beardless there. He was my main sourcer. I used to buy from him as an estate agent. And then I was like, okay, I think I need somebody. So my recruitment strategy was, what is the least amount of money you can live on and come and work with me? And it wasn't because I was trying to save money, it was because I was a startup. So I just didn't even know if I could afford payroll. And so he did, and we worked together for 5.5 years. So he's the main reason. So I ran I mean, I can source property standing on my head. It'll take me about an hour to find a good discounted property, but he did most of the work. And then my job was working on the investor side more. And then Jess used to manage education. Tiffany was the cheeky monkey, as you can tell. She's now back down near you guys. She was super glamorous. So she almost doubled my property portfolio prices when she ran my lettings side, because she was like, honey, they're not paying that, they're paying this. And I'm like, what? And so she just showed me the price point of a rental property can be very elastic. It was fascinating. And then Terry ran head office. Oh yeah, sorry. And what we did, we did quite a lot. We did over 200 deals, 45 million quid's worth of property, an agreed purchase price of 30 million quid. That was before refurb in 4.5 years. But I was the main buyer of my properties. And I mainly have a portfolio, single-let, multi-let, HMOs, single-let, multi-let students. I did have service accommodation, but we shut them down on March the 13th. And it was like, quick, get single-lets in. And so I didn't have a problem with any voids there. So deal packaging, there are loads of people out there who are cash rich and time poor. They don't have the skills, they want to invest in property, and they're really happy to have somebody else do the work for them. Very, very briefly, if you sold deals at purchase price 200 grand, and some of you guys have been on my webinar, so you'll recognize this slide, I used to charge 5%. Everybody paid me 5%. I used to sell between 95 and 99% of my deals within 30 to 60 seconds. The trick to that, and it wasn't a trick, is I separated out the decision-making process, do I trust Susannah, and the decision-making process, do I buy this deal? So Andy Arter, if you could be my, if you were sourcing deals and you released a deal, I would have two things to think about. I'd be like, do I trust him and do I want this deal? And then my brain would fry. But because Andy, you've charged me money to be member of your group, I've had to go, do I trust Andy? Yes or no? Yes, I'll proceed. So then when you release a deal, the only thing I need to think about is, do I buy this deal or do I buy the next deal? So it's not a trick, because it's about saving you time, and it's making sure you've got a group of very, very committed. You know, you're only as weak as your strong as your weakest link as a deal packager. Because I used to charge £1,000 membership, and that was not because I was like rubbing my hands for money. It was because I wanted to get rid of wasted time people, and I wanted to move their problem, which was, oh my God, do I trust Andy and I want that deal, to I've already figured out I trust Andy, now do I buy this deal? So I used to charge 5%, and almost every single one would be sold within 30 to 60 seconds. And I was doing between 48 and 53 deals a year. It just varied. I targeted my team with doing 70, knowing that they'd fail. And therefore we got around on average 50. So you notice KPIs, I over target to get what I really want. Oh, and by the way, this, just to show you, I did show you, this is my pivot on my business during lockdown, because obviously in the early days, you just don't know. So I'm a visual person. Just in it, if anybody else has got lots of piece of paper, that's my two. So a couple of deals. My very first one, Grove Road, bought for 163. It was a small-time developer who died, and I don't know why. I guess they just didn't have the experience, because it only needed like an £8,000 refurb, but his family or his estate allowed it to go into bankruptcy. It was tragic, actually. But anyway, I bought it for 163. I sold it to an estate agent, a man that owns an estate agency company, as a deal packager, and it was worth 240, and I got 8,000 quid, which was nice. My first bit of money. Tower Road, sold this one to Judith, bought for 119, end value 160, so I got just under £6,000. Gal Street, this is a trick if you're going into deal. I don't want to use the word trick, because it's not a trick. This is a tip. What you often want to do is take a house that's been extended to the side and put into 4 one-beds, because nobody wants to buy it, because the pension companies, it's far too small. The investors, they're not going to buy 4 because like they're only looking for 1, and the people who are buying houses for themselves are not going to buy 4 flats and only live in one of them. Nobody wants to buy it. So you get, yeah, I can see you nodding. So you can get really, really good discounts. And then if you're not that experienced in property, you may not know that what happens is when a developer, a small-time developer, takes out funding on a project like this, you would automatically assume that when they sold each of the flats, they would get their proportion of their mortgage back. No. No. The bank takes all the money. So often the developer gets nothing until the last one's sold. So they're like, oh my God, do I have to carry this thing? I'm so bored of it. I'm already desperate for cash because I've got another project. And I'm not seeing any money anyway, so I might as well discount and get all my cash now. So it's a proper, genuine, professional trick. Go for 4, 6 and 8 bed flats and then split them up and sell them individually to investors. And your lawyer splits the title because your investors only work with your panel of solicitors. That is how to make really good money as a deal packager. And we did it again and again and again and again. Do you see? Friday afternoon, that landed. Obviously, it went straight out again because I was buying houses. So decent. We were doing 50 roughly of these a year. Okay, and instead of 1 in 3 falling out of bed, I got 9 out of 10 over the line because I do a lot of conveyancing. I don't let up. I'm on the phone every day, 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, 30 seconds. Hello, anything I can help. So it's pretty life-changing, isn't it? Now, I'm not going to give you this exercise just now, but afterwards, I'm going to put it in the chat for any of you guys who want to run a deal packaging business. It's kind of a nice outline. What kind of business do you want to run? So I'll copy it from my exercises, which I do with my mentoring guys, and I'll pop it in the chat afterwards. But when you start thinking, whether it's deal packaging or property, you need to be writing a business plan if you haven't got one already. Maybe not one like this, but that's because we hit a global pandemic and we weren't quite sure what was going to happen. So I did planning for all sorts. So deal packaging is basically you match up investors and deals. You don't buy the deal, which is brilliant if you're starting out. That's why I did it, because I was starting out. You take a fee. I used to charge 5%. Most people charge 1 or 2%. They never stay in business. They can't afford the support. The investors then don't get the continuity, because loads of investors just want you to buy all their deals for them. One guy in my first year, I think we sold him 8 deals. You know, it was great for me, but it was great for him because he didn't need to think about it after the first deal. You make it happen. It's totally unsexy back office work. I'd love to say it's all about 6 figures. Loads of back office conveyancing. You notice I said I conveyance at 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. You got a market to say, hey, we're here. And then obviously deal sourcing. So there's quite a lot to it, but there's a lot you can earn. And the beauty of it, genuine beauty of it is, A, you don't invest any of your own money. But instead of rent to rent, where you're just ending up in a light bulb fight with a tenant, you know, those boring fights. Yes, I can see you. What's happening is you're learning your skills on how to get deals. You're learning how to work with investors. You're learning to work with property professionals. You're learning to work with lawyers. You're learning to work with estate agents. You know, you are honing your skills for your next step, which is obviously owning your own property portfolio. And of course, I was the biggest buyer of my own deals. You can be too. You're going to look at how much money your investor's making and you're going to go, I love the fact I'm making you rich. Let's share that a little bit more and run joint ventures. And then many of your investors are like, do you know, I just want interest. As I work with, but my biggest investor used to lend me 600 grand every year, which was 1/5 of his investment pot. He used to talk to me about the other 2.4 million, but we were just happy to, he lent me 600 grand every year. And I used to get houses for me at 100% funding, private mortgage. So I would buy lots of houses every year and he'd be like, could you please hurry up and spend my money? And then all he got was interest and I just refinanced and rented back out again. So you can then access good investors and then just go, I'll have that deal, I'll have that deal, I'll have that deal. Right, you may or may not know about compliance. Let's cover it because it is important. You need to be a member of an ombudsman. We were we were a member of Property Ombudsman, and out of 217 deals, we had, was it one? We had one formal complaint, which we settled over a cup of tea and a cake. It was all very amicable. It was a bit of a misunderstanding on both sides, to be quite frank with you, and it got sorted out really quickly. And then we had one complaint where she refused to meet with us. What would happen was I don't know if you guys know about Japanese knotweed, but the house, we'd said it was worth 235. I can't remember what she got it for, but like it was an amazing deal. We said it was worth 235. You always undervalue as a deal packager. And she actually had it revalued by Handelsbanken for 265, 30 grand more than we said. Now we tried that every time. If we thought something was worth 250, we'd say 240 or 235, because there's nothing better than an investor who's really happy. Yeah, so it was overvalued by 30 grand. So she got a cracking deal of offers, but right down the railway line, way outside of this house, was Japanese knotweed. And she complained about that. And they ruled in our favor, but nonetheless, she still complained about that. So I found the ombudsman process to be very useful because it protects you, the deal packager, when somebody's complaining about something that's got nothing to do with you, that's like 100 meters away, and her survey should have picked it up, but didn't. You need a formal complaints procedure, but you just copy it from your ombudsman. So respond within 3 days and give a final adjudication within 14 days, because then they can take it to an ombudsman. It's important that they can take it to an ombudsman if you've done anything wrong or dodgy. And it's important that the ombudsman can properly judge, so they can't put in a claim that's spurious, which is, you know, that case of the Japanese knotweed, bless her. Anti-money laundering, because you may be handling quite a lot of cash, but I tended to like the money always to go through the lawyers as like a double belt and braces, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm a generalist. Data protection, because you're going to handle a lot of very sensitive information about your investors. Indemnity insurance, because somebody might want to sue you. Nobody ever did with me, but they might. And then obviously a deal sourcing agreement. And mine is pretty robust, because it's, you know, 2% of people aren't they? So if I did over 200 deals, then that's going to be 4 or 5 people trying to rip me off. And they tried, and they did not succeed, because it's been kicked around and we've closed all the loopholes for naughty investors. Is a nice way of saying it. Yeah, and that's why you have them on an annual membership. I used to charge them £1,000 membership. And my first mistake was to say 100 quid for 100 deals. And there was a couple of people I was like, oh, when can you leave? You know, you drive me nuts. So I learned very quickly, and I don't mean that rudely to them, but they just went, well, whatever. You wouldn't do business with them twice, is a nice way of saying it. So I learned very quickly, only have people do an annual membership, because then you can be like, oh, I'm really sorry I don't have any places next year. You know, you're not stuck with people you don't want to do business with anymore, because you're in charge. So you want to plan, let's talk about getting paid. You want to plan the deal release process. We had release now, release 7 days later, and release 14 days later. So about 1 to 4% of deals had to be released twice. Everything else sold within 30 or 60 seconds. And on average, I had 4 investors trying to buy every deal, which was great, because that's a perfect situation, because they're not waiting too long, you know, because they might get the next one or the next one, but you're sat there going, thank goodness, I feel very solid. I can always go out and get more deals because I got 4 people trying to buy every deal. So it feels more safe, you know, for you. If you only got, and that was a tap. If I only had 1 investor trying to buy a deal, I'd have to increase investor recruitment. If I had 6 or 7 investors trying to buy deals, I had to increase deals. So we'd go to more auctions, we'd do much more off-market leafleting in order to increase the deals. My sweet spot was 4. It meant that within 4 weeks, they'd all get a deal, but I've got a really solid group. See? So you're constantly juggling. Do I increase the deals? Do I increase the investors? So anything less than 4 people would give me a freak out. And then we'd send a text. Now our plan was to just send a text to go, you know, because we're not pushy. It'd be like, hey guys, you know, here's a deal. We'll release the deal tomorrow. But because people got to know us, because they'd paid us before, because they knew our bank accounts, the cheeky monkeys ended up just, because they'd, remember I charged them £1,000, so they'd already figured out that they trusted me. So we'd be like, okay, it's Monday. We released the deal at 4 o'clock, because we figured anyone who's working but trying to invest, they'd be like looking at their phone at 4, you know, but so we didn't want to do it at like 9 o'clock in the morning when somebody's boss was really on their case. You know what I mean? Because 50% of our investors were full-time and 50% were still working in day jobs. So our Monday 4 o'clock, and then release the actual deal for people to buy it the next day. But bank details, and they were paying us the reservation fee straight away. So we ended up selling every deal on a text, which was crazy, I thought, because we would then do a 10-page deal report 24 hours later, but it was too late. It was already gone. So all that did was recruit new investors. Deal reservation payment, is it refundable? Can you answer, unmute yourselves, yes or no? If they pull out the deal, is it refundable? Oh, damn, I've given you the answer. Ali K, is it refundable? No, you are not sale or return.
No.
No. Now, I don't ever want to take money for nothing. It's not my style, but twice I retained deal reservation. So they reserve a deal with £1,000, not because I was sat there going, I want to take my money, because it was I needed it to be a warning to anybody else. And because I'm Scottish, so I'm a bit black and white about things. I'm a little bit stubborn. And each time they reneged on their, so what would happen in my business, I would be very, very clear with them in advance, all the negatives, all the downsides, all the rules. And it was, if you mess the deal up, and so for example, one of them went on site, the extension was built in the 50s. I don't know if you guys know, but building regs didn't come in until 1984, and they started kicking the extension and saying this isn't to building regs. I'm like, of course it's not. It's 30 years before. And they're like, we're going to drop out. And the agent obviously turned around to us and went, you guys are idiots. We're not going to deal with you again. It was massively embarrassing because if your investor drops out, you lose the agent for like a year and a half, because you've just embarrassed the agent and you've embarrassed yourself. So it's not so much that you're grabbing their cash. It's just that you cannot have a weak link. So you push your investors back. When they want to join you, you say, just you make sure you're sure about this, because these are my rules. So I think I retained 2 reservations, £1,000 reservations, not because I was trying to take the cash, but because you need strong links. And I told every other investor that, and so they had to think twice and 3 times before joining, which is good, because you only get the strong links then, no tire kickers. The exchange, and I've given you the answer. It's on exchange because your job is to get them the legal property. So if they can mess around with the mortgage, that's their tough luck. You are getting them the legal property. And if they're non-committal, well, they don't get to see the deals, because by charging £1,000, that makes somebody decide whether they're a committal or not, doesn't it? Deals, for any of you guys that have been on my webinars, you know I always give these numbers out. 100 phone calls, 25 viewings, 21 offers, 1 to 2 deals. And so out of 100% of a deal, this is where the deals are. And I just like this as a nice visual. It's between 0 and 2% out of every 100 properties being sold. So if that is the only thing, like take a photograph of that and put it up on your wall tonight. If that is the best, or not the best, so the main thing you retain from tonight, that's probably the most valuable, because then when you've done 10 viewings or 10 phone calls, you're like, I wonder why I can't get a deal. It must be me. Nope. Well, it is. It's just you need to pick up the phone more. It's just a numbers game. Deal reports. Again, just grab photos. You're very welcome to. And Rob, I'm very happy if this goes out afterwards. This is the kind of deal reports that we would do for people, roughly about 10 pages. And these are all the things we'd pop in it. And it's all very sensible, isn't it? But you notice we don't put in property renovation cost. We learnt. Lots of things I teach are because we learnt it painfully, because you would automatically put in the cost, wouldn't you? And there were 2 reasons why we didn't. Number one, I worked with Ash, who I love to bits as a human being, but he was an estate agent. So he hadn't done many refurbs and he was very optimistic. And he would say it's a 12 grand refurb and it'd come in at 15 grand. I'd be like, Ash, I could have told you that. So I had a rule, which was if Ash thinks it's like, I don't know, a 10 grand refurb, he has to put 1.5 times what he thinks it is as a cost. So we started off overestimating the cost, and that worked 90%, 99% of the time. But then we found so number one is you may underestimate it, and your investors are going to be annoyed with you. And that happened a few times with us in the early days until I realized what was happening and made him put in 1.5 times what he thought it would cost. The second thing is the cost that you tell the investor, because you're an experienced person, and then they go add a bloomin' Buckingham. But you told me it would be 15 grand. Honestly, I've had that situation many times where you go, but you added bells and whistles and an extension. They're like, but you told me it was 20 grand. So I learned in the first 100 deals to never give a cost, even though I wanted to, but only to give a condition. Because either you get caught out because you've underestimated, and we certainly underestimated in the early doors, or they just add bells and whistles, but still go, but you said, and you're like, oh, do we have to explain this? Yes, we do. So these are all the things you need to pop in. Right, structure. Again, I'm not going to go through it. Take a photo, look at all the different structures, but you definitely want to be compliant. You definitely want to be in a limited company, and you want to have a separate trading company than your asset holding limited company, because now I've never experienced it. We got on with almost all our, I mean, it was 1 or 2, but we got on with almost all of our investors. But, you just may come across somebody who's going to gun for you and is going to try and sue you for your assets. And for you guys as property investors, no matter what you do in life, you've got to have a bit of common sense these days. If you're building a massive multi-million pound portfolio, protect it. No matter what you're going to do alongside that. Pop it in a limited company. When it's paid off, pop it in a trust. Really make sure it's protected for inheritance, you know, because it's not right that somebody that's being a bit naughty gets their hands on it. So just be mindful of that. And then you're going to need a conveyancing solicitor, somebody to put the report together, as somebody to release the deal and receive the cash, or even if they do it over the bank, someone's got to check it off. I mean, we literally at one point had to go, all right, three people have put in a reservation fee. We've got to see who put the money in first and tell the other two that they're disappointed. You've got to do loads of internal conveyancing, legal conveyancing, that's either you or the lawyer, invoice management, and then looking after investors, the relationship, compliance if you do joint ventures, administration, and day management for investor days. So there's again quite a bit to it. So take a photo if you want of that, or Rob can send it out later on. Ah, we're seeing more people now. Oh, hello, Alison Brooks. What are you doing here?
Hi, Susannah. Took me a while to find the ticket, I must say. I didn't get an email.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So second exercise for you guys is look at which roles need to be filled, which roles in the deal packaging are you filling, who will you recruit for the other roles. Now, I don't mean that you're going to have lots of payroll. It just means if we go back, you know, who's your solicitor, who's your bookkeeper, who's your accountant, you know, some self-employed people as well is a second exercise. Now pop that in as well for you guys. Right, marketing. Now you may love marketing, or you may got anything to do with anything. Well, marketing's got everything to do with everything. You may or may not have heard of the 7 Ps: product, place, price, promotion, packaging, positioning, and people. But anything you do in your houses, it doesn't need to be in deal packaging. Let's look at a house that you've got for rent. What's the product? Shall we do, does somebody want to go through their house? And we'll do it on the 7 Ps really quickly. Who's got a house for rent or for sale? Come on, give me a volunteer. And I know you do,
okay,
Alison.
Susannah.
Who's saying okay?
That's Andy Arthur.
Nice one. Okay, what's your product? Is it for sale or for rent?
It's for sale.
Oh, good.
Kind of. In theory, I've agreed. So.
Okay. Okay. So what is the product? Is it a new build? Describe it for just a sec.
No, it's a 1950s house.
Yep.
Which has been extended quite a lot.
Lovely.
So would you want full details or?
How many bedrooms? Has it been refurbed or has it not been refurbed?
Yeah, it's been refurbed. Probably wants a little bit more doing to it now, but yeah, it's been refurbed. There's 6 bedrooms.
Wow.
And there's 16 rooms all in all.
Wow.
And it's got a driveway but no garage because we've pinched the garage to live in as well.
And does it have a big garden? Coronavirus requirement?
Not really, no. It's about 75 feet, something like that, the back garden.
Okay.
And then a small front garden with a drive for a couple of cars.
Got you. So price point, so that's what the product is. So we understand what the product is. Price point, you don't need to tell us the price point. Decide whether you want to tell us or not, but what's the price range maybe?
It's 625, something like that.
So that immediately tells us that's a higher price point. So he's going to a high price point kind of customer. So all of this 7 Ps is going to be quite important. How did you promote it? Because it's not a BHS to Marks and Spencer's price point. It's a John Lewis and Harvey Nicks price point, isn't it?
Yeah, probably for Bristol. Yeah, for around this area, it's like a split village. So this part of the village is the cheap side, and the other side of the village is twice the price.
So hang on a moment. So this is the 7 Ps we're demonstrating. So you didn't tell me that you are the cheaper houses in a posh village.
Yes,
that's right. The product. Yeah. So the product is not just the house. The product is the village. Do you see what I'm getting to here, guys?
Definitely
so if you,
the village in this
there
instance,
we go. So he's selling living in that village and living inexpensively, relatively in that village. That's the real product here.
That's right, yeah.
And what we do for anything, whether it's a package deal or a house you're selling or a house you're renting, go through the 7 Ps, like just, yes, sir. Okay. So we know the price. So actually, oh, where's he gone?
I'm here.
Oh, there you're there. Okay. You went out of mine.
Yeah.
So actually you're quite a nice cheap price rather than an
Yes.
expensive price.
Very much
And
so,
it's the village that's going to be the main part of the promotion. So
yeah.
I'm going to talk about packaging and positioning shortly, and the package and position is where the village sits. How did you promote it?
Well, it's gone through an estate agent.
Okay, so that's people who's selling it for you. How many people worked in that estate agent office?
Oh, I'd say less than half a dozen.
Okay, so we got 5 or under. Did you tour every single person round your house?
No.
Why not, Andy Arter? I've known you for a long time.
When you say it's to every single person, you mean people that wanted to buy?
No, I mean the people who are selling your house.
Oh, right. No, but no, there was 2 of them that came round.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're selling,
one's the owner.
Yeah, we're selling a 6-figure product in a fancy village, and there are less than 6 people to train. And anyone might pick up the phone to a customer who wants a fancy village.
Yeah.
So for you, understand who are the people. And although you might argue, or not argue, but you might say, well, Suze, the owner would have taught the others. Really? Would they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Step out of the norm. Make sure you train the people who are selling your big price product well. Mm-hmm. So either they all come to you and you give them loads of cookies, or you go to them and you do them a lovely visual tour and talk them through everything. Give them a story.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So that's marketing, because you just don't know who, at that point, they're going to sell your house before someone else's house, because you are a known person to them. They've enjoyed you. They love the story. Do you see what I mean? It's front of mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Place, where did you sell it? As in their window, in the internet, in newspapers?
It was on the internet. It is in their window, and it's not in newspapers, I don't believe.
Why not?
I'm not certain. I've not seen it in the local newspaper anyway, put it that way.
So again, place, when you're selling a property, okay, we were talking about deal packaging, but you can do these 7 Ps on any piece of property. I would, with a house at 650 and above, which is, sounds to me like lots of people stay in that village for a long time because it's a really desirable village. Right.
Do, yeah.
So they're going to tell their friends, oh, there's a house around the corner for sale. And they might be reading, is it a slightly older aged village often?
Yes.
So older aged people will still get the local newspaper delivered. So we want to tell them, to tell their network of friends that my dad plays bowls at the bowling club, at the tennis club, at the book club, at whatever they go to. It spreads that information out. Oh yeah, there's a house in my village for sale. Your friend of a friend of a friend. Do you see what I mean? And you need to make sure that you are selling in the place that they are looking. So yes, you'll get Silver Surfers online, of course you will. But if it's an older village that people stay for years and they love, you want to sell it through community, which is often through papers.
Yeah. Well, the people that are actually buying here now are actually from North London. So
they wouldn't.
Yeah, so they wouldn't. So that's sort of pretty much 9 out of 10 of the people that are buying nowadays.
Right.
Are actually coming out from the edges of, we're right on the outskirts of London, just outside, and they're coming from the northern parts of London.
Perfect. In which case, internet's ideal, but can I just question this? If they're coming from the outskirts of London, could your estate agent not put an advert in their local papers as well?
I often think they should. Yeah. I often think
because you know where they're coming from.
Yeah, definitely, and they know that too. But because they're only up the road, I don't know what their tactics are, but literally that's where their clients are coming from,
So they should be advertising there. But you as the main seller, not them, should be making sure that all of this is covered. I don't mean should. We're just using this as an example, and thank you for raising your hand.
No, it's
packaging.
Okay.
How did you show it? Ta-da!
Well, they actually did normal pictures and just come around with a decent camera, fisheye lens and that kind of stuff. But they also took a video, which was quite useful, worked quite well.
Nice.
And that was pretty much it.
And did you have any trendy, fancy designer furniture, anything that's, you know, obvious in the kitchen, like Smeg or Bosch, or, you know, anything that basically says, I'm in a nice posh village?
No, I mean, it's generally okay. So I don't think they really needed to, you know,
yeah.
I think it was relatively okay. What you'd expect, I suppose, for the cheap side of an expensive village. You know?
But it's one thing to just consider, you know, do you put in a cup? Well, here we go. I'm in my dining room, and that's an original Urkel. My sister sent me a spa day. That's the card you can see. So we did a spa day. She's in America. So that's an original Urkel, which has got a certain part of packaging. This is 1940s Aga. Again, it's certain kind of thing, hasn't it? And then over there is an original Urkel piece of furniture as well. So that definitely says the girl's into 1950s design. It doesn't mean to say you needed to, Andy, but that's a certain type of positioning from a design point of view. And if you were selling a new, you know, a buy to sell, you'd probably look at some packaging. What colour cushions, that kind of thing, Andy? Your speciality.
Yeah, we did a little bit of that kind of stuff, but nothing too major. I mean, but literally, it was, you know, pretty much stuff that we were going to use or buy anyway. So it wasn't a major thing for us. But yeah, I get it. Dress it up to make it look exactly what you need to. Yeah.
And then positioning. And the other thing in packaging is, did your agent create any direct brochures? Because people love a good brochure. You know, I know my slides inside out. I still printed them off for you guys tonight. You know, we like touching things.
Yeah, he does have a brochure that he leaves outside. You can pick it up from outside of the estate agents, and anyone that goes in, he will send out stuff, obviously, in the post, especially at the minute.
Right. Yeah.
So he does have brochures. Yeah.
And on your brochure for your house, how much was about your house and how much was about the village? Because I would want 3 pages about your house, an entire page about the village, sort of arty shots shot around the village.
Yeah, I get you. And no, there wasn't a lot about the village in particular.
It's Mr. Trick, because you've just told us that's the main selling point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think because he's been here and established for such a long while, he's obviously like number one port of call for a lot of people. But of course, he's got more competition nowadays. The next village along is even posher again, and they've got 3 estate agents in it. So you know, it's one of these things that he's got to obviously up his game potentially on that, like you say. Yeah.
But what we've just ran through really is the 7 Ps for a flip. And by pulling it out, you can kind of see a little bit, can't you, how you can ideally retail that product, as it is called, you know, in order to get a faster sale, a higher sale, more customers, you know, more, all of that. So I hope it was useful, and thank you very much, Andy. It's very kind of you to be my guinea pig. I thought I was have to go and grab you, Alison, and Alison was like, "Don't look at me, Suze." Thank you very much. And I hope for the next one, and good luck with the move. I hope it goes really well for you.
Thank you.
So you can use your packaging, your 7 Ps on anything, but I hope you noticed the people one was quite interesting, wasn't it? You know, train the whole people. So use those 7 Ps and look them up. There's some great explanations online for any part of any business that you're going to do, whether you're looking to attract joint venture partners or do a buy to sell or do a buy to let, just use them. And then think about your branding. So in the early days as a deal, we wanted to be a little bit like John Lewis because they're a very trusted brand. So if you notice, I'll move, I like seeing your faces. So down here, you notice it's the greys and soft greens. If anybody knows John Lewis, and there's lots of space. Now, it's not exactly John Lewis, I do get that. But their branding is very white, very simple, very grey and very green. And my brief to my designer was, we need to be trusted because we're a nobody trying to sell houses to investors, we've got to have a branding that is trusted. And that was my brief was John Lewis. And again, in the early days, because again, I was raising a lot of money at the time, whereas now I've paid it all back. And we were selling package deals to people. We used a lot of really cute kind of 1950s kids to really show the family, the trust, all of those things. Whereas these days we use a little bit more, like that happens to be my living room, but it's a little bit more glamorous. You see it's shiny, there's velvet, there's glass, there's metallic surfaces. So we chose the type of branding that was needed for the purpose. And so whatever thing you're doing in property, think about your branding. Think about your tone, your image, your palette, which is your colors, your font, your logo, rules of display, and be consistent. Just because these days, I suppose presentation matters, and then they're going to figure out afterwards that you've got loads of depth. And these days, more and more, the social media matters. So a professional photo, a good description, your details, pop in recommendations, help other people in groups, put in social proof. And what your goal here is moving from marketing saying, hey, we do this stuff, to actually, do you want to come and do some business with me? You're going to end up getting some great deals from me, and I'm going to get some great fees. Everybody's going to win. So you want to move them from, hey, look, you're a lead, to actually you're a nice human being and I'm going to really enjoy doing business with you. And that's really the purposes of marketing, is to make somebody see what you do and then have them inquire about it, and then you can figure out whether you're going to end up working together. And I did a lot of investor days. I used to run, in the end I was doing investor days every 2 weeks, Monday from 2 o'clock till 6 o'clock. It was time efficient because it gave social proof, because I made my investors come back to investor days. I said, in order to be a member, you have to come to 3 investor days, which meant they maybe came to 2 before they joined and then 1 afterwards. So loads of people could talk to people I was working with. It tested their commitment because they came from all around the country. I charged 20 quid because I needed them, like Beyonce, to put a ring in it. And it was all about the follow-up process. Hey, Alison, where I wanted to have follow-up from every single person. And I scheduled them a year in advance. So deal packaging, basically, it's a really great way to get into property without loans, mortgages, and debts. And there you go. Fast and furious, but the reason I want to do fast and furious is I'm quite happy to go on to really good Q&A for you guys as well, and see where you're at in property and what you want to be asking questions about as well. So look at that, Rob. That's the first time in my life on your meeting I've finished early on purpose. Yes. So what questions would you guys like to ask about raising money from investors, buying discounted deals, flipping, rentals, or just setting up a property business or deal packaging? There you go. There's the menu.
Susannah.
Hi, okay.
Sorry, you go for it.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I've got a question, if that's okay.
Super.
So what advice would you give someone who's attempting to set up a deal packaging business whilst also working full time?
Quite a straight speaker is going to be knackering. So, sorry, but it's true. Yeah. So first, look at what you do. The biggest resource you've got is time. I've seen it again and again and again. Everyone thinks it's money. It's not, it's time. And of course, while you're working full time, that really sucks up quite a lot of your time. So I would first examine your use of time, or if I was you, I'd examine your use of time. So I'm old school. I do this. There you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how I measured my time when I was doing exactly what you're talking about. You know, and I would have 3 things I needed to measure my time on. The first was getting the deals, the second was the investors, and the third was setting up and managing my business. So these days I've got people that do a lot of that work, but in the early days it was me. And I needed to do 30% on deals, 30% on investors, and 40% on the business. And I measured it. I would have like 3 columns, and I would be like, you know, that's investors, that's deals, and that's business. And then I just put for every hour. So this sounds like ridiculous advice, doesn't it? But it's the best. The number one thing is your precious resource of time. So no TV. Tell your friends, well, I know you're a bloke, right? and you've got a good beard, but tell your friends you love them and you'll see them in a year, you know, or 6 months time, or, you know, just be really clear with them. I'm so, hey bro.
Shall I do the same for my 2-year-old son?
No, well, that's the tricky thing, isn't it? So I always had Sundays off. It was sacrosanct for my kids.
Okay.
My kids were a little bit older. They were 10 and 12 when I started, and they're a bit like, hey mom, we want to go and hang out with friends on a Saturday, but Sunday was sacrosanct. And then what I did, which you may or may not like the sound of, but it's just reality, or my reality that might be useful for you, is I took Fridays off as holidays. So instead of having a nice family holiday for the first year, I just did Fridays off. So it meant I could do like Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, because the kids were like, we want to go see our friends. And then Sunday, we had one day that was, you know, roast dinner, crumble and custard, and homework and school clothes and all of that stuff. So cut out telly, tell your mates you love them, bro. Yeah. And then just have maybe one family day for a short period of time. And then as soon as you're able to, try and go down 4 days a week or 3 days a week with your work, if they allow you to do so.
Okay. So is it, so just to confirm my understanding, is that what you did? Were you working full time when you started?
Yeah. And I was, I had taken, no, listen, I always give my all into anything I do, because it's just weird not to, or it's unfair not to. And so it was a senior job, but it was in a charity. It was the SS Great Britain, which is quite an icon of Bristol's, that is the ship. And I was the marketing director there. So it was quite a senior job. So obviously I didn't shirk, and obviously I put the hours in. So I was knackered, I'll be truthful, it was quite tiring. And I got an agreement with my boss, Matthew, that I could eventually work 4 days a week, and that was very kind of him to do so. So what I did first was I tested it by doing holidays on a Friday. Okay. So that's straight speaking rather than pretense for you.
Yeah, and then, no, I appreciate that.
And then the second thing is, I mean, you listen, I'm not trying to make a sale, but you can download all my documents I used for 29 quid on my website. They cost me £2.5 grand, and it'll give you a good examination of them. You know, the deal packaging agreement. Definitely get your investors to pay you some money, because otherwise they're just going to be using you as a sale or return. Now, it doesn't matter whether they pay you 50 quid, 100 quid, 200 quid, or 1,000 quid to join your group. You got to make them put some commitment in. Beyonce, if they liked it, put a ring in it.
So, and just to make sure I understood what you did, you charged them £1,000 a year just to be part of your group, and then on top of that, every time they bought a deal off you, you would charge them 5% of the purchase price. Is that?
Yeah, and actually it was 6%, because of course by that point we were VAT registered, so we had to charge them 6%, but we only got 5%. The government got the other 1%.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's. I mean, I'm by no means experienced in this at all, but I have looked around at what other people do, and 5% is high from what I've seen.
I agree.
Did you start off with 5%?
Yep.
And that wasn't.
Nope.
Nobody sort of batted an eyelid because you were new and asking for that much.
No. So there was a couple of things. Number one is I had quite good marketing from the beginning, and I mean proper professional marketing, not bullshit sleazy marketing. Sorry, Rob, but thank you. So I always, I showed you my brand guidelines. We always had, good logo and professional marketing from the beginning to say, look, we're not a wheeler dealer who's going to be lost next week and you can't find us again. We're in this from the long run. And if you notice as well, there are very few long-term deal packaging businesses. They don't stay in business because they all undercut each other, and they all charge too little, and they simply cannot run a business. So what I was looking for was that, again, if you divide your customers into quartiles, I was looking for the top quartile investor, and there are two kind of customers. You've got a customer who basically, it's not just about deal packaging. If you're looking to raise money, these are your two kind of investors. You've either got the corporate person who's done really quite well for themselves, doesn't have the skills on property, but has got quite a good cash spot and just wants you to do it. And they will buy a couple of projects from you. They will lend you 50 to 100 grand if they're going to lend you money, right? And they'll stay in their corporate job, and you're really kind of helping build their retirement, or you're going to pay them some interest. And you can joint venture with those people, but they want they basically want education from you through the joint venture as well as cash. So they'll do 1 or 2 JVs and then they might go and do it themselves.
Okay.
So know that that's not a repeating customer beyond a couple of deals, right? And know that they, and I enjoyed almost all of mine, but you know, you do need a veto button. And the thing that I love about property is, look, I'm sharing everything I know as much as I possibly can with you guys, and we still all get a reward. Whereas in a business, the greasy pole gets smaller and smaller by the time you're at director level. So everybody ends up fighting and developing up good political skills to try and get the best jobs. So those corporate people who've made themselves a lot of money have got very good political skills. Do you know what I mean? So occasionally they'll try and give you the runaround, and you just have to go, we don't play that game. And it's only because they've developed those skills in order to get in that position. You see it happening.
Sure.
The other investor is somebody who's made 5 million, or who's got 5 million quid plus in the bank. They're going to divide that pot. Obviously, they're going to keep some cash, and then they're going to divide that pot into 5 investment pots. So I had quite a few of those guys as well. And they're going to lend you, you know, 200, 300 to 500,000 quid, 600 grand, that kind of thing every year. Your corporate people will be tripping over themselves. I mean, it won't feel like that to you, but they'll be tripping over themselves to give you money, right? Your multimillionaires, because if you earn them 50 grand, it's not a big deal to them. It's not going to, you know, they're not going to untie their shoes for that. It's not going to make any difference, but they have a sort of moral obligation to make their money, make more money. That's why they're doing it. And also they still want to be in the game, even though they've retired, because they've made it. Often they've done management buyouts or sold companies. So they have more risk at losing cash than gaining cash. They've got less to gain as a proportion of their money. To make 50 grand when you've got 5 million, like, no biggie. But to lose 200 grand when you've got 5 million is worse than making 50. Do you see what I mean? So they will take longer to incubate because they got more to lose. But once you are in with them and they are in with you, that's like a 5-year, 10-year relationship. Because once you can do deals with them and they can work with you, you just rinse and repeat. And they don't want to know about how to do houses because they're retired, you know? Yeah. So go for both, but your best customer or client or investor or just person to work with or partner is definitely your 5 million quid people, because they're a rinse and repeat and they never want to know how to do it.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. I've got loads of other questions, but I know that there are other people as well. So I don't want to hog the whole session.
Andy had a question, but do come back with others.
I will do.
That's why I ran through the presentation, so we could do this stuff instead, because I hope you get more out of it.
I'll let Andy go and then I'll come back later if that's okay.
Fire in, Andy. And I want to see what Hannah looks like, because Hannah, you're on my webinar today, so I want to see what she looks like. Go on, Andy.
Can we ask a question?
Just unmuting myself.
Oh, sorry,
okay.
Ivona.
Sorry, there's a question from Penny. May I ask the question now before you, Andy? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
Okay, then. So Penny is saying, I'm looking for sourcers for commercial developments, retail offices and light industrial units within the Midlands. Do you have any tips, Susannah? Yeah. In my experience, I have only come across sources that are very unprofessional or really good ones, but they keep all the best deals for themselves.
I don't have experience of retail offices and light industrial sourcing. I was a cookie cutter, rinse and repeat residential sourcer, but Alison and I both know a chap called Peter Mayer, who's superb, M-A-R-E, who you might like to contact. He's mainly doing deals for himself now, but so if there you go. If you might like to contact him, and he may have a wider network. The only thing I can say is, it's just reiterating kind of what I said before. Sourcers who are unprofessional are normally undercharging, and they simply can't afford to be professional. And then the good ones, they will keep their best deals for themselves. That's part of the kind of deal of being a deal sourcer. So my best tip, actually, in the end, because we ended up working with so many investors, we had the full rainbow of people. You get what I mean, don't you? We had amazing people to work with, and we had a couple of right plonkers, and they drove me nuts. So in the end, Penny, the best tip I could possibly give you, and you'll just be like, what are you saying, Suze, is behavior. We ended up with a a 5-item scoring system. Oh, Andy, you've gone sideways. That's very clever. A 5-item scoring system based in order to decide who did we want to work with every year and who did we just want to gently allow to go past us. And every single part of the scoring system was about the investor's behavior, and none of it was about how much money did they have, because that was so Penny, my tip to you would be, you know how you catch more bees with honey than vinegar, be the sweetest. So our stuff was, our analysis of who are the investors we want to work with, I can't remember it all now, but number one was, are they nice to my team? Because everyone was nice to me because I represented cash. Are they nice? You know, the waiter test, when you're dating somebody and you're seeing whether they're nice to the waiter or waitress because they don't matter. Yeah, that's who they really are when they're annoyed with you. So are they nice to my team, not me? Number two was, would they say good things about us? As in, are they quite, you know, like Ali was really encouraging earlier on. You know, Ali's a lovely human, you know, so are they an encouraging kind of positive character? Number three is, can they get their paperwork done fast? So Penny, this sounds really silly, but that would make a massive difference on whether I'd work with an investor or not, because if they couldn't get their paperwork done fast, we'd lose the deal. Like, and that was me paying my team for nothing and being really annoyed with the investor. And I can't actually remember the other two, but again, it was all about behavior again. So it's be sweet, be kind, be encouraging, recognize that your source has probably got a 16-hour day ahead of them, and then also get your paperwork done super fast. So they're only partial tips for you, Penny, but I hope they're useful to you. Any more? Hannah's saying that she can't connect to video because she's having trouble. Hannah's in her pajamas. That's what's going on. Any more questions for you guys on any of these subjects? You're very welcome to ask anything you like, or maybe something that you need answering for yourselves.
I've got one for you.
Yeah, no questions on chat.
Cool.
Just a quick question. You said you could find a deal within an hour. So how do you do that exactly? That
is just because it's so, so I don't mean this in a pretentious way, it's because I've just put the hours in. So, you know, the Malcolm Gladwell's book, which comes from an American yet Danish academic, Anders, I think it's Anders Andersen or Peters Peterson. Anyway, I saw him speak a few years ago at the Hey My Festival. It's the 10,000 hours. I've done it for way over 10,000 hours. So you go from unconsciously incompetent, which is a lovely blissful state of not knowing anything, but you don't know it, so you're just quite happy, to consciously incompetent, which, I mean this kindly, some of you will be feeling that right now. You'll be like, oh God, this is embarrassing. I really don't know enough. And then consciously competent, when you're like, right, what do I need to do? Oh yeah. And then unconsciously competent. And I've just deal sourced or raised money for so long that I know exactly what to do. It's totally in my blood and my bones. But basically, Andy, what I'd be doing is I'd just be picking up the phone non-stop to estate agents. I mean, the last deal I found it for my hairdresser because I'm worried about him and I want him to buy 5 houses, and I've mapped out his business plan for him. And he's going, there are no deals. And I found him 3 deals while he was doing my hair. And Andy, I've got long hair, it takes an hour. So I found him 3 deals on the phone. So it's really just identify, and what I'm looking for, if I need to find a deal fast, if we needed to increase our run rate of deals fast, we always went back to auctions because that's the fastest way of doing it. We had 288 estate agents in the Bristol area, and I would try and make sure my team was phoning them every week, but they would probably phone them every 2 weeks. And then everybody always goes to their favorite estate agent, and you're like, no, because it's not your favorite that's maybe going to have the deals. You have to phone everybody. And I would very, very rarely do anything online. I mean, I did for my hairdresser, but that's because I want him to buy 5 houses. But normally I would never look at Rightmove or Zoopla because everyone else is. I'm on the phone. I'm trying to be friends with, so auctions. I took Josh, who used to be part of my business, I took him to go and find a deal, and he, like the other 20 people, went into the auction house, and I went in for 3 minutes and came back out again and spent the rest of the 15-minute beside the auctioneer, whereas everyone else spent it all in the house. And the auctioneer was asking me information. Hi Hannah, nice to see what you look like. The auctioneer was asking me loads of bits of information, you know, how are you finding the industry, how are you finding your properties. So I wasn't like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I was give. But you know what? When I go and buy from that auctioneer they tell their clients she's good for it. So even with the auctioneers, it's all about the relationship. And everybody else, all the 20 other people that ignored the guy, lost out because I'll get the next one pre-auction or post-auction because they know I'm solid.
That's great. Yeah, I get you. I thought you was going to say online, but there you go. Live and learn.
No, because everyone else is online. So I'm all about the phone and the relationship. You want to beat everyone else, to be quite honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Am I right in thinking that you only buy pre or post auction and that you don't actually bid in an auction?
No, I do bid in an auction. We did once try and buy 30 houses in an auction, in the same auction, which was quite good fun. And we got 7 of them, which is, and on average, you get 1 in 4 houses you try and buy. So we went with 30 different investors' money, which was quite hectic.
Okay.
And then we had to refund 23 investors' money and then sort out the balances of the 7 that we were successful in. No, I like bidding at auction as well.
On behalf of investors?
Both.
Because I would have thought that would add a sort of extra layer of complexity into what is already quite a sort of stressful, time pressured
yes.
thing.
So it does, but I'm quite used to bidding at auction, and I've got a technique, as you can imagine. And at the moment, actually, we're doing a link up with Straker's auction. So we're releasing YouTube videos. We've got a whole auction series that we did with Charlie, and he's the head auctioneer. So go on the YouTube channel. Becky should be releasing them. She's in charge. She'll be releasing them like anyway, basically I've done 10 videos interviewing the head auctioneer for Straker's. So have a good look. But you can go talk. So basically, if you're going with an investor as a deal packager or as a JV partner, you must insist your investor pays for a legal report, because if it screws up, it's a big screw up at auction. Therefore, your investor must realize, and they must know, and you must spell it out, they've got a chance of paying for a legal pack and get nothing, and it's a 75% chance. If they're still prepared to go to auction with you, fabulous. If not, they need to know about that stuff. And then I have a whole process, a whole spreadsheet. They obviously have to transfer the 10% in advance plus the auction fees. We have to have written confirmation from the lawyer that we can sign anything on the day. We always phone up the auctioneer and say, listen, I'm coming in with a lot of investor money, so let's just double check we got everything right. And then the next day you just refund all the money that wasn't spent. That's why you've got to be money laundering. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, it's quite good fun. Now, Penny, you're asking me privately, this sounds really silly, but because Peter is a mentoring client, because of GDPR, I can't give you Peter's phone number. But Alison, Peter is your friend. So you could give Penny Peter's phone number, couldn't you? But I can't, Penny, because of GDPR, because he came to me as a customer, even though I like him enormously as a human being. So Penny, ask Alison Brooks and she can help you.
I guess Susannah, I can take Penny's number and give it to Peter.
Oh, that's perfect. There you go, Penny. Do you mind giving your number to Alison, Penny?
Yeah. You could just privately message me, Penny.
There you are. Perfect. But that applies for, and I like going to auction pre, and I like going to auction post as well. And when you go to auction, you go with again, I'm a paper girl. I know my top price. It's written down. I never go over the top price. I can tell you the houses are lost out by not going over my top price. I still cry about them now. They're so beautiful. But I never, ever go over my top price. And I always try and buy a minimum 4 houses. And that way, I've only ever gone to auction once and come back without a house in my handbag. And that pissed me off. And that's because I got so excited about a £960,000 purchase, 14 flats and 2 houses, and it was an £8,000 refurb for a £960,000 housing purchase, that I forgot to look at the other items in the auction, and it went for £1,040,000, which was above my top price. So I came away with nothing. And I watched Alison, St. Paul's, as you, because Alison and I are in the same city, as you drive down from St. Paul's onto the M32, look at these houses. On the right hand side, there are a block of 8 flats with green doors. Do you know how much those buggers got sold for? 50 grand each, 400 grand. They're worth 150 to 190 grand. And I had the cash, but I hadn't paid 50 quid, because that's all my lawyer used to charge me for the legal pack.
I would have just bid, Susannah. You should just bid.
No, it's a rule. If you haven't had the legal pack, and what was even more annoying, it was the same seller. It was a large company going bust. So the likelihood was, given that I had the legal pack sorted out on one, it was probably okay. But it's just, no, the rules are I like an animal. I nearly gnawed my arm off with frustration. I was so cross with myself for forgetting my rule. Always try and buy 4 houses, you'll get one. So 50 grand a flat, and they were worth between 150 and 180 each, and there were 8 of them. Does anyone want to work out how much how much profit I left by forgetting that rule? Yeah, Ali, you just did. It's painful. Yeah. Any more?
Don't work it out now. Don't work it out.
No, work it out and then like wave it at me, Ali. Just to like motivate me. Any more questions on anything? Investors, finding deals, how do you get started? Feeling worried, overwhelmed?
Can I ask a question? There's no questions in the chat at the moment. I just wanted to ask your opinion because you are very open that you work with estate agents as well as obviously other methods of marketing. Has it ever happened to you? Because, you know, a lot of investors turn their noses up at sources if they work with the agents. Because,
Yeah,
for instance, you spend time building the relationships. The agents contact you straight away. You don't even go online to see whether that deal is online. It's not relevant. Because
exactly.
You have the conversation with somebody you have the relationship with. And obviously they're obliged to put it online, but they ring you first. Yeah. Has it ever happened to you? And for instance, once you identify the deal, you introduce it to the investor, then they will go with the details of that deal and check it online. Yeah. Have they ever questioned your professionalism in a sense that, oh, well, it's just online, it's not really a deal if it is online? Has that ever happened to you? And what was your response?
It has, but it happens more at the investor day level, not at the, so you got a gate, haven't you? And for them to come and actually work with you, they've got to get through the gate of, do I want to work with her? Do I like her techniques? And do I trust her enough to pay a £1,000 membership fee? So so if the gate is there, if the fence is there, and here's where we do deals, and here's where you come into the corral and figure out whether you want to work with me or not, I've definitely had it questioned there. And what I found, and I understand it, but it used to really frustrate me, for them, not for me, because I always found enough investors. I learned very quickly that investors in Bristol would turn their nose up at working with me for 2 reasons. Number one is, well, the main one being that if it's on an estate agent, well, I could get it myself. And that's understandable, but the sort of impolite answer is, but you're not. So you're genuinely better paying me and getting a house. But obviously I was a little bit too polite and well brought up to say that. But again and again and again, I observed people from Bristol would come into my room and then not join my group. So what I was fascinated about was the majority of my investors came from outside of Bristol. So even being able to see something online, they wouldn't have got there in time. And I thought it was quite illogical from an investor's point of view in Bristol, if they looked at the reality, which was, you got a whole team here, Susan, you're doing this like day in, day out, whereas I've not bought a deal for 2 years and you're buying a deal every week. But I could understand how why should I pay you when I could do it myself? So what I found as a deal packager is I would do 2 events in Bristol a month, and then I would do 2, because I only ever went to 1 event a month, I would do 2 events in London a month to find customers, and almost all of my customers would come from outside of Bristol, which I found disappointing, because it's much better for somebody to buy a deal in Bristol.
Locally.
Yeah, they didn't. So go outside your area, and which means London, because that's where people have got the money. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Hannah's got a lovely question. At the very beginning, I'm very nervous. She keeps telling us that her video's not working. She's just hiding. There we go. I'm very little confidence. So I'd love to get help with getting started with finance building. Okay. Well, Hannah, really it's about figuring out how much you need and then writing a plan. So what is your gap? How many houses do you want to buy? How much are they going to cost? How much are they going to cost to refurb? Very roughly. So what's the 25% deposit and the refurb cost? And then what is your gap? And that's your fundraising target. And then know that every investor on average will give you 50 grand. So divide your fundraising target by 50 grand. And then know that 1 in 20 people will give you 50 grand that you meet at a property event if you follow them to touch point 5 to 9. So you go, I don't know, 200 grand is my target. So I need 1 in 20. So I need 400, hang on, it's late. I'm normally in bed by this time. Come on, tell me the maths. She wants 200 grand, which is 4 investors giving her on average 50 grand.
Isn't
1 in
it?
20 will give her the money. So 4 times 20, she needs
Yeah,
80 business cards. Do you see? 1 in 20 will give her 50 grand on average if she moves the relationships to 5 to 9 touch points. So to get 200 grand, you divide it by 50, that's 4 people. Times it by 20, because 1 in 20 will give her the money. So Hannah, you need to collect 80 business cards and have 80 conversations with people, asking them what's your time frame, your objective, and how much is your pot. And when I was fundraising, and here's the coronavirus, when I was fundraising, I used to be able to get people's if I like Ivana, if I said to you, what's your goal? What's your objective? And then when do you want to make that happen by? And how much cash have you got to make that happen? That's a very natural conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I found out her pot size. So now, is she somebody that I really want to hang out with, but she hasn't got any money? So she's in the friend property zone. Or is she somebody I want to hang out with who does have money? Then she's in the investor property zone. Do you see what I mean? There you go. Property events. Well, Rob runs a good one. You always get good quality people. There's lots online at the moment, and then there are 2 very good websites. I don't know whether com or co or whatever, but they are My Property Power Team and then Just Do Property. They both advertise events, and also YPN, Your Property Network magazine, they advertise loads of events as well. There you are. Okay, hello. I want to start doing HMO management. Hang on, stop there. Owning HMOs or managing them for other people?
Yeah, okay, the question is to you.
Managing for other people.
Why?
Because I've always done property management. So for me, it's been it's quite interesting to take the next step to do HMO management as well. So that's why. I'm a bit of a weird guy. I enjoy dealing with the light bulbs.
Do you really? Okay, I don't. I get too cross with them. Well, I don't deal with them now anyway. But
Yeah.
do you have goals to own property as well? Okay.
Yeah, I'd say further down the line, I definitely will do. Yeah.
Why further down the line?
To obviously build up cash flow, and then I'll be able to start investing properly.
So why not raise the finance now and find the deals discounted this year in the next 3 months?
I didn't think of it doing it that way around.
How many years have you been in property management?
I'd say just over 10 years.
Wow. So you're massively experienced.
Yeah.
So if you think about the experience, and I guess you've also got a lot of experience of managing trades, getting things fixed, you know, yeah. Insurance for trades, leaseholds, freeholds.
Yeah, all down those lines.
Right. Well, what a good guy for an investor to invest in. I mean, do you want somebody that did marketing for a charity museum, which is what I did, or do you want a guy with 10 years plus of freehold, leasehold, tenant management, trades management, knowing his way inside out in property law?
Yeah, kind of makes sense.
You've got a great CV. So once more with emphasis, why not consider not putting another 5 years into HMO management, but consider saying, hang on, if I dared to dream, how much of a property portfolio might I end up with? How, you know, what would my life look like? What could it be like? What would life be if I didn't need to work? But I would still enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, get them holidays.
So how much does the holiday, and cost it all out. What is your dream life? And then cost it. How many holidays a year? Cost it out.
Okay.
And then how many houses do I need to own at what loan to value to make that life happen?
True. Yeah, I don't know why I sort of went off of that direction, even though the option is there.
Yeah.
I always thought, oh, let me just do it that way. Yeah, I suppose sticking to what I know is the easy way. And I think,
it's if you're very good at what you do as well, then it's obvious that you take pride in being excellent. And this is the one difficulty for all of us as we start in property. We're normally really quite good at our other stuff, right? And then we go back to, remember we talked about being unconsciously incompetent, being absolute bloody useless, you know, like for you, okay, how great would you be at raising money if I told you to go and raise money tonight? Like I could raise 100 grand in about an hour, and I've done it before. How great would you be? You know, so you, and all it is I've done it loads. Whereas how great would you be at, you know, sorting out tenants? You'd be amazing. So you've got to accept, you've got to go back to the beginning and start to learn from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent to consciously competent about the private fundraising side and the sourcing discounted deal side. And then you'll be amazing at the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you can totally do this. A little bit more. Yeah, and start writing some plans. I spent a whole year planning my property business before I started. A whole year. So you could have looked at me and gone, well, you're doing nothing. You're one of those time wasters that's talking crap. A whole year. And then I was like, vroom, and didn't stop. And I've only just stopped now. It's great fun. So there's my challenge for you. Before we close, I'll put links up to webinars. If that's okay for you, Rob, and your fabulous Hawaiian shirt. But that would be my challenge to you. Don't go into HMO management for other people, because then you're just going to watch other people's assets double and triple in value. Go into it for yourself.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Right. Your job is to write a business plan, year 1 and year 5.
Yeah. I'm on it.
Good. Ben, do you have any more questions?
I've got one more question, if that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, go on. We just have some questions in the chat. Is that okay if I ask them?
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so there's a question from Hannah. What is the protocol on repaying back to investors?
Yes.
And could you explain how I pay back the investors?
Yes. So number one, you've got to get the property discounted. So what we were learning earlier from Claire about my PDA, that might be extremely useful to have your kind of deal analysis done for you immediately. So basically property can be naughty to you, Hannah, and it's always when things are tough that property decides to give you a right little boot. You know, it's never when you're cruising high. So just be aware of that, Hannah, and then smile when it's happening to you. So the first way to pay investors back is by buying discounted, refinancing and paying out. So if I give you an example, I bought Osborne Road for £203,000. It was 41 grand refurb, and it was revalued at 330. So if we take 75% of 330 times 75%, that's 247,000 quid. Well, I bought it for 203, and I did a 41 grand refurb. So I refinanced at 75% loan to value, and I actually got slightly more cash out than I spent on it. I mean, obviously there's fees and stuff. So basically almost all of my investors' money came back out from that deal. And then because it's an HMO, it makes between £1,000 and £1,500 a month. So the tiny little bit remaining, I then pay the investor back with that. So number one is you must buy discounted, Hannah, and everybody. Number two is that's not always going to work because of all sorts of things in property, like a project overspend or a down valuation by a surveyor, or you've got it wrong. So number two is I ran a deal packaging business alongside to keep the cash coming in, so that even if that hadn't refinanced, I'd have been making money from a deal packaging business to pay them back. Number three, because again, that might not work, is I also ran a flipping strategy to generate more bits of cash to keep paying people back. And the time limit on repayments, Hannah, it's really what you legally agree. I used to agree a year's agreement with an 8-month break clause for me, because if I didn't need the money, I gave it back, but I never once gave money back early. And just to be very clear, and I've raised millions and millions, I have been twice late paying back. It is the most excruciatingly un-English, embarrassing moment ever, because we, but it will happen to you if you do enough deals. I don't mean I accept it. I was beyond mortified. In each of the cases, I can't even remember this case now, but in each of the cases, there were 5 things that I had in place. Number 1, refinance. Number 2, a flip. Number 3, some deal packaging. Number 4, I don't know, refinance a different property. Number 5, something else, maybe a different investor. And all 5 things sort of limply fell over, So it will occasionally happen to you, and then you have to communicate with your investors. I was mortified. And then the guy was like, I'm going to charge you more interest. And I'm like, no, you're not. because if you want to get what's in the bank, it's like 0.1% or whatever, or 1%. And the reason you're getting, I can't remember, he was maybe getting like 8% or 10%. The reason you're getting big money is you're taking on a risk. Of course, I'm going to pay you back. But you wanted to charge me 50% interest. Piss off. So obviously I didn't work with him again. Yes. Oh, it was amicable, and he still speaks highly of me now, and I'm really clear that but they will try and be naughty to you, Hannah. Occasionally. I'm aware of time. Did you want a question, or Ivana, is there other ways you want to?
There's no more questions in the chats.
I've just got one more question, if that's okay.
Cool.
So I'm based in South London,
Yes.
and for practical reasons, I'm focusing on properties in and around where I live.
Good.
But I'm slightly concerned that it's going to be difficult for me to live with some of the deal packages who are based in the north, because the yields are so much higher there, and also the prices are lower, and so they'll have a larger pool of people who are able to invest.
Yes, they
obviously will. You mentioned earlier that really you should be looking at high net worth individuals, but do you think deal packaging in London is viable? Is it a yeah?
So what's the average price point of a house that you're going to be finding?
Well, I'm hoping it will be kind of low 200,000s.
Oh, really? So quite inexpensive still.
Yeah. I mean, my plan is to take 1-bed flats and basically switch them into 2-bed flats by making a separate living room into a kitchen diner, and then turning the kitchen into a second bedroom. Yeah,
classic.
And in South, this is very specific now, but in and around kind of Norwood Junction, South Norwood, Norbury, Thornton Heath, that kind of area, I think you can get, they're relatively few and far between, but I think you can get those kind of properties in the low 200s.
Fabulous.
But yeah, I mean,
you should have no problem finding investors. If there's money to be made in that 20% markup, you should have no problem finding investors to do that kind of thing. Yeah, particularly once you start a track record. And I was expecting you to say like 800,000 to $1 million, and then I'm like, well, you get 100,000 discount. Everybody's winning.
Yeah, well, obviously you can buy properties for that amount of money in London, but yeah, I wanted to keep my potential pool of investors relatively wide to start with, at least.
Yes.
Maybe I'm a bit overly negative about the number of investors that I'll be able to attract. But
at this stage, it's just a process. It's genuine. They will not join with you until they've had at minimum 5 touch points, and often 9. So by that, this is a touch point because we have all committed to being here tonight. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
An email is not for you millennials. An email Ali?
I wish I was a millennial.
An email is not a touch point. And hang on, Anthony, are you millennial? An email is not a touch point, and a text is not a touch point. Okay, just need to teach some younger people that, because nobody committed to it. They just pinged it off, right? It's where two people have a commitment. Beyonce, if you liked it, you should have put a ring in it. So agreeing to a telephone call at a certain time is a touch point. Agreeing to a meeting at a certain time is a touch point. Agreeing to a Zoom call at a certain time is commitment on both sides. There you go. You will have, so very few people will commit to 5 to 9 before 5 touch points. And the problem happens is people in the early stage, they give up too early. You just need to say, I need to get X number of people to touch point 9. And then my investors will come out of that pool. And in the journey, I'm going to learn loads. It's going to be really good fun, meeting loads of people. So yeah, and ignore the people going up north, because almost inevitably in 10 years later, they all sell their portfolios because it's a nightmare. I don't like that strategy at all.
Okay. Great. Look, from my point of view, thanks very much. I really appreciate all your advice. It's been really helpful.
I've put some links into webinars. I do webinars every week during lockdown at the moment, usually straight after a CrossFit workout where I'm wearing gym clothes and nobody can see me because I don't put myself up on the screen. And so do come onto some of the webinars. I do 4 different subjects every week. You're very welcome to. Yes.
Thanks
now
I'm
aware of time. So I'll be led by Rob and Iana.
There is no more questions in the chat. So Rob? You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
He's a millennial.
Sorry, I am a millennial.
That's why.
Yes. I was going to say I must stop shouting. I was going to say call it a day at 9:30, but
we can do another couple of questions if that's all right with you guys.
do another couple of questions.
I just want to respect everybody's time because I could chat for history. Alison Brooks.
Can't hear you, Alison.
Oh, thank you. I was just saying I'm going to go, and I'm sorry I was late. I missed everything, but I'll listen to the recording. Thank you, Susannah.
See you soon.
Cheers.
Alison.
Mihaela, anything for you?
Yeah, actually, I have a question for you. I was following 2 of your courses after I seen the webinar, but I didn't finish them. So I'm in the way of learning.
Okay, so you're on your way.
Yeah, but I would like to, I was looking to LinkedIn and made some good connections with people that are starting from sourcing, and now they are looking for investors. So it's not specifically written, but they are speaking about raising funds from investors, so they are looking for that. And my question is, from their point of view, how they are choosing the investors, because I think there are a lot of people that want to invest. So maybe sometimes they are, for them, there are many investors that wants to put money in their projects. So from their point of view, how are the criteria they are choosing the investors to work with?
And first, they need to be compliant. So if they're going to do any joint venture work, they need to be, I'll pop it in here, they need to be aware of PS 13.3, which has been in action since the 1st of January 2014. That means, and there are 3 categories that the investor can be. The first one is that they need to be a high net worth individual, which is either earning over 100 grand salary, or, you know,
yeah, I know the criteria, so I look to.
So they need to be compliant. And then the second thing would be, in my opinion, it would be, are they easy to work with? You know, if something was to go wrong in property, could we work together as a partnership, or are they going to start shooting off the blame gun? And that would be very important. My experience is work with somebody who takes a shoulder-to-shoulder position in times of trouble, not a blamey position. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would like you to have your own investors, not to have investors that are third-party investors, because if you have investors who really, people don't belong to people, but if they sort of belong to the other person, they're going to be loyal to that person. They're not necessarily going to be loyal to you. So they may, if they belong over here, they may well treat you as like sailor return supplier. Whereas if you've got a group of investors yourself, they're not going to treat you so much as a sailor return supplier. They're going to treat you as, you are my supplier of deals. So I'd be keen for you to start on the whole touch points with investors as you develop up your business, Mihaela.
Yeah, but now I was considering to be myself an investor. So just
great.
Work with deal sourcer or just people that are leads and that just want to develop and just work with them from the investor's point of view.
Brilliant.
So because anyone is telling me, us how to raise money from the the sourcer points of view, but not from the investor's point of view.
Yes.
How to be prepared to be an investor for a good deal package dealer.
Right. For you, have you got funds already, or do you need to build up the funds more?
Let's say at that point I have some funds.
Okay, so you have some funds. I would definitely identify how much your total funds is, and identify how you're going to divide that pot. Usually people divide it into 3s or 5s, and then see whether you want to join as a consortium with anybody else and build up even more funds so that you can observe your deal sources in action and see who's good. You know, try them out with a small project and then move them to a larger project. So don't put all of your money into the first project, divide it up into at least 3, just to keep you safe, because property can be a risk. And then, Mihaela, make sure, however you're doing the deal, that you've got very clear security on the property. Ideally, you own it, or if you're buying and selling it. When I did joint ventures, let's say you were my funding partner and I was the joint venture delivery partner. If you're the funding partner, it usually goes in your name, because why do I need to own it? And that is really nice security for you as the JV partner. So make sure you've got very good security, that you don't risk getting ripped off at all. So check, if you're going to invest, check the, I would get your a person who's getting your money to pay your legal fees. And make sure that the legal agreement is watertight for you, and that you've got, you know, first charge, second charge, floating charge, equitable charge, restrictions, personal guarantees, whatever's best for you, depending on how much money you're putting in. And for everybody else, and forgive me, Mihaela, to use you as an example, for everybody else on this call, I hope you heard the buying signals. So I heard that, and now, Mihaela, I'm not looking for money, so you're okay, but the buying signals were potentially I may have some money. So every single one of you should be phoning up Mihaela tonight or tomorrow and say, hey, do you want to have a Zoom coffee? Because she's indicated she's got funds. So Mihaela, forgive me if you now get inundated by people, but it sounds like there's some good deal sources here. So hopefully you might end up doing a deal. But for people who are looking to become deal sources, you need to be listening. She's not going, I've got money. She's just suggesting she may have funds. Vroom, you need to follow up, because she might not. She may well be very connected. You don't know. Do not miss a trick, people, because your investors do not shout it out. They're as subtle as Mihaela has just been. Okay? So Mihaela, I'm sorry if you get lots of phone calls tomorrow. But then you can report back and tell me how good they are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Any more for any more?
Thank you.
Anything for you, Anthony? Anything more for you, Ben? And I know Ali's probably gone off to get his supper. Hannah, how are you doing with your pajamas, even though you weren't in pajamas? And anything for Deborah?
I think it's all gone quiet.
Yeah, nothing more for me. It's been really helpful. Thanks very much.
Good. Good. How about you,
Brilliant.
Anthony? You've been sat there giggling. I was watching you laugh at things. Anything that might be useful to you before we close off?
Just sorting out my audio. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can see you now.
While he's sorting out his audio, okay, we're expecting a business plan from you, okay? Don't be thinking you're escaping.
Don't
Not
worry,
straight,
I'm on it.
not straight away, but soon. A 1 year and a 5 year business plan for you to buy assets, please. Okay.
All right.
Don't be
getting
being the service provider. Be the asset owner. Rich dad, poor dad.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Good. So move from the left-hand quadrant, which is employed and self-employed, to the right hand, which is business owner and asset owner. And sounds like you're having a bit of difficulty, Anthony. You could always type in the chat if that was easier for you before we close off. I think the audio is not quite working.
I've actually just thought of one more question while Anthony's typing, if that's okay. There seems to be two general schools of thought when it comes to deal packaging: finding the deal first and then finding an investor to take the deal, or sourcing to order. Basically, essentially finding well, from your talk, I got the impression that the first option was your preferred one. But I guess just to play devil's advocate, I guess the advantage of sourcing to order, in theory at least, is that you know what you're looking for, and that you're not sort of running around just sort of looking for any deal of any description. You have a clear brief as to what you're looking for, and you can kind of focus on that. But despite that, it doesn't float your boat.
Just from the experience, but you're absolutely right, and it's all about the quality of the people. And you picked up that that we did a 5-point assessment, which was all about how somebody's behaviour was. Because once you've worked with hundreds of investors, you see a range of behaviours. So there's a sentence which I really don't like, because I think it's actually very disrespectful, but it's the right sentence, which is buyers are liars. And I don't like it. It's not very nice, but it's true in my experience. So my investors would come in and be like, I'm going to buy a 1-bed flat. And then I release a 5-bed HMO and they buy it. And you go, what? If I'd sourced to order, what? And that happens so often. And what would happen, of course, is by the time you sort of, inverted commas, took the order, they keep educating themselves. They buy 2 months later. They've learned so much more. They're ready for a 5-bed HMO. So it's not like they were lying. It's just that they've developed. So yes, you could source to order as long as you have enough customers. If you get a prima donna, you can drop them. And so you have to keep everybody keen. You cannot have one buyer, because then they'll be like, how high are you going to jump for me? So one of the tests I used to do, behavior tests, I remember this particular guy, he was on the phone to me. He was like, I'm in London. I've got 6 million quid cash. Come to me in London. I was like, no, that's not how we do it. You always come to Bristol because I want you to see Bristol. Now, it's nothing to do with Bristol. I'm testing his behavior. And he's like, no, I can show you my bank statement. He clearly had 6 million quid. I've got this cash. I want to buy property. I need you in London. Now that's a prima donna. So on the one hand, I'd have loved to have some of the fees from that 6 million quid's worth of purchasing, but he'd have been given it, how high are you going to jump? And so by him refusing to follow my processes, that told me he wouldn't be a team player. I wasn't going to work with him, and so I didn't.
Okay.
So
but did he not think that you were being a prima donna and asking him how high to jump?
He might have done. I always tried to explain it from a process point of view. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was basically, this is how. Now, if I was sourcing 10 deals a year, I could, fine. But if I'm doing a deal every single week, we're buying a house every single week, I don't have time to deviate from the process. So that's how I pretended not to be a prima donna. Yeah, fair play. Now, did you want to ask anything, Anthony, in the chat? Or are you good? Thumbs up, or did you want to?
At the moment, I'm good at the moment. I would like to say thank you for giving us a window into your wisdom and your experience. I mean, you can't put a price on experience. The roller coaster ride you've had from your highs and your lows, and you've managed to galvanize all of that into a very clear, effective system. Thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. And thank you as well, Claire. It's been very interesting on the tech side. I'm going to email all my geeky friends now. Right, I shall withdraw, Rob. Look, I'm quite... Normally he has to bat me off, but I'm being respectful tonight. I've learned my lesson.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. And Claire as well, if she's still about.
Yes.
Is there?
Suzette, yes, great. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for coming. If you want to get in touch, we're on Facebook as the Online Property Meet. We've got a WhatsApp group. Just get in touch with me for that. And that's about it.
Great shirt, Rob. Can you give us a 12?
Woo-hoo-hoo! I'd like to have a little chat with you, Susannah. I'll probably email you soon.
That would be lovely. I'd really like that. That'd be great.
Very much.
No, everybody. See you soon, and good luck to everybody. And good luck, Claire. Well done.
Yes.
Bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Bye.